subject of Prisca Theologia, the ancient theology. Today, and this will be a three-part presentation, by the way, so today we'll be dealing with astrology. And we're going to study and look into Western Hermetic astrology, okay? As opposed to Vedic or Chinese astrology. This is, the Prisca Theologia is a Western school from Egypt. It's Hermetic, and it's Mercurius Trismegistus, or Hermes Trismegistus, okay? So this is what we're going to be learning, Hermetic wisdom. And then next week will be astrotheology, and this will be the series of the three under Prisca Theologia. Astrotheology is, here I'm going to be dealing with mainly the Bible, the Judeo-Christian works, and show many, many, many proofs of its astral origins. And I've touched on this on many presentations that I've done, but this will be solely devoted to astrotheology. Then we shall deal with, on the 20th of November, with the occult science of Prisca Theologia and esoteric wisdom. So, occult, well, what's something occult? Is that from the devil? Well, when you put an O, an O there, in Italian, in my language, that's hidden. Is that two Ds? Yes? No? Yes. Yes. Occulto. Occulto. And the French say occulte, Spanish ocultado. So it's something that's hidden. So when you uncover something, it's like, oh, so there it is. All right? It's not evil, as they want you to believe in the church, the occult. It's something that's hidden. So we're going to uncover a lot of hidden stuff. Now, astrology is a wonderful science which really uncovers the physical nature, physics, and metaphysics, the spiritual nature of the universe. So we're going to be doing some deep metaphysical studies today. But I'm going to start from kindergarten level fundamental stuff, showing the physics underpinning the science of astrology. And then we see how that works with the causal metaphysics part of astrology. So we're going to deal with the cause and effect, the whole lot. That's what this is. That's what astrology is. It reveals to you who Isis is, nature, and then the invisible causes. So we're going to do that. I think we'll have some fun. What do you think? Yeah. Now, the ancient theology was given to us by Mercury, Hermes. Mercury, Hermes, Thoth or Thoth, Nebo, according to the Babylonians, Marduk, according to the Assyrians, Buddha in the East, Buddha, the Mercury aspect. Mercury is the closest planet to the Sun. Therefore, Mercury is in the electrical current first from the Sun, and it's fast, 88 days to do an orbit. Okay, now what I'm going to get into a little bit later is a new interpretation of the solar system according to scholars like Keshava Vahat, Walter Russell, etc. Okay, and it's a vortex solar system. So there's a sun, and then the planets follow in the wake of the sun. Okay, we're going to deal with that later because we've got to understand the physical aspects of this science. Now, Hermes is mind. That's what it is. It's mind. Mind conceived of these wonderful things. According to Marcus Manilius, the astrologer to Caesar Augustus, he revealed that the divine science was given to us by the divine Mercurius. Because Mercury in our solar system, if you think of our solar system as a person, or as a being like ourselves, with 7 planets which correspond to the 7 chakras, the 7 visible orbs, you will understand the role that Mercury plays. Mercury is heavily involved with the right brain and the nervous system. Now, your nervous system is the messenger to your body, right? You got pain in the toe, the messenger is your nervous system. Goes straight up to the brain and says, you've got trouble down in your toe. So Mercury is the messenger of the gods. He delivers the messages from the Christ-like conscious sun centre of our solar system. Simple as that. The ancients knew that the sun was a being, and it was a being of 3 orbs: spiritual, psychic and material. Spirit, soul and matter. Spirit, mind and matter. That's what the sun is. When we look up, we see a fiery ball of hydrogen. It's electric. We don't see the spirit and the psychic force of the sun, but it is psychic. Now, just I'm going to be drawing mostly on 3 great astrologers. This one from the 1st century BCE, this one from the 2nd century CE, and this from the 4th century CE. Marcus Manilius, Claudius Ptolemy, and Firmicus Maternus. I'm going to be reading a lot from here, and guess what he's going to be revealing to us, this man who wrote 1600 years ago. He's going to be revealing to us the true lineage of the science and how we got to get it, how we come to have it. So I'm going to be drawing mostly on these guys and a couple of others, Al-Biruni and Ibn Isra from the 10th century, so from the Middle Ages, and your more modern ones like Thomas H. Burgoyne and Pappus. Okay, so what we've got is if we've got a historical moment, and there's your first. So you've got BCE over here, and Common Era over here from this point here. Marcus Manilius was in the 1st century here, just before the turn of the ages, and then you've got 1st century, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, let's say. You've got Ptolemy is in here, and you've got Firmicus Maternus in here, and your Al-Biruni and Ibn Isra around that period. So it's pretty ancient, and it's good to source these guys because they knew where their science came from. There's no ambiguities. There's no confusion in their minds that it comes from the West. So this is our Western tradition of astrology. Now, just before I jump into this, I did share with you this flyer. Now, this is from the School of Ancient Mysticism in Egypt. Okay, Yusuf Awiyan and Patricia Awiyan. Yusuf is the son of Abdel Hakim Awiyan, who you might remember in this beautiful documentary by Carmen Butler, The Pyramid Codes. If you haven't seen this yet, please do. Really, please watch this. There's a lot of truth coming out of Egypt now. It's tying in with everything that I'm doing. Now, I'm going to be speaking in Egypt next year in October with Yusuf and Patricia. It'll be a 2-week tour, and we will go to all these pre-dynastic sites like Edfu, Aswan, Abydos, Dendera, Saqqara, and all of these wonderful places. And you are sure to be learning there about the true history of Egypt. And according to Abdel, who's now passed away, of course, you'll see him a lot in here. He's interviewed a lot. And the words of wisdom that come from this guy's mouth. He is the indigenous wisdom keeper. The indigenous wisdom keeper of Egypt. And these guys speak the truth about Egypt. Because they're not interested in Rome's consensus historical version of Egypt. The proof is there, and the proof is in the books that were Stephen Miller, I hope I'm saying that right, Mila, interviewed Abdel Hakim Awian over many years, as did Carmen Butler, to make and produce that beautiful product, documentary. These two books are also based on that indigenous wisdom from Hakim. So I'm sharing that with you because this ties in with it greatly, and the story that comes out of astrology. Astrology has been persecuted for a long, long time now, and it's going to be difficult for me it's always difficult to tackle the mother of all sciences. So I've got a difficult task ahead of me today, but we should be able to understand many, many things about this wonderful science. Firstly, you've got academia who tells you that it's a pseudoscience because it's not based on any kind of scientific approach, provable scientific research. And then you've got your religionists who will tell you that it's from the devil, it's evil, whilst they know nothing about it. Nothing. I often ask people, what do you think is evil about it? Can you give me one fact or one item? And by that time, they've nowhere to be seen. You know, they've gone running to the hills because they know nothing about it. And as Einstein said, condemnation without investigation is the height of folly. So, yes, I'm acknowledging that it is difficult, but we should be able to get through many subjects and nut out a few truths about astrology. Now, first of all, let me go with Marcus Manilius, shall we? Because I do want you to understand that these guys revered this science. It was a science to be revered. It was not for fools. It was for holy men. Holy meaning of spiritually evolved people. They knew that reality was spiritual. They knew that. They knew that the material aspect of it was the effect of these beautiful spiritual causes. And they knew the science of it. Because their minds, they were working with the higher mind. You see, this mind. It's this mind that gives you this wisdom. It's in the right brain. Okay? This mind sees the bigger picture. This mind sees the small details. Right? So it sees the trees, this sees the forest. And it is the higher mind because it has a strong attachment to the heart. And the heart also thinks. So once you get those two connected, this knowledge is easy. It's very easy. Now, Marcus Manilius, this is beautiful, the way he introduces this beautiful work of his. It's a 5-part work called Astronomica. So this is book 1, and he says, deeper knowledge of heaven was first granted to earth by the gift of the gods. For who, if the gods wished to conceal it, would have guilefully stolen the secret of the skies, by which all things are ruled? Who, of but human understanding, would have essayed so great a task as to wish against heaven's wish to appear a God himself, to reveal paths on high and paths beneath the bottom of the earth, and stars obedient to appointed orbits through the void? Sorry for my reading, I'm struggling with my eyesight. I should get some glasses, I think. And it's a little bit dark, so. You, God of Selene, take note. Selene, who's Selene? The moon. The orb above the moon is Mercury. So the god of Selene is Mercury. You are the first founder of this great and holy science. Through you has man gained a deeper understanding of the sky, the constellations, the names, the courses of the signs, their importance and influences, that the aspect of the firmament might be enhanced, that awe might be roused not only by the appearance but by the power of things, and that mankind might learn wherein lies God's greatest power. Moreover, nature proffered her aid and of her own accord opened up herself, deigning first to inspire those kings whose minds reached out to heights pondering on heaven, kings who civilized savage peoples beneath the eastern sky, where the stars returned to view and soar above the cities of dusky nations. Then priests who all their lives offered sacrifice in temples and were chosen to voice the people's prayer, secured by their devotion the sympathy of God. Their pure minds were kindled by the very presence of the powerful deity, and the God of heaven brought his servants to a knowledge of heaven and disclosed its secrets to them. These were the men who founded our noble science, and were the first in their art to discern the destinies dependent on the wandering stars. Embracing long ages of unremitting toil, they assigned to each period of time its particular events, noting an individual's nativity and the subsequent pattern of his life, the influence of each hour on the laws of fate, and the great differences effected by small moments. After every aspect of the sky had been observed, as the stars returned to their original positions, and each figuration had assigned to it its powers of influence in accordance with the sure cycles of destiny, they, by repeated practice and with examples pointing the way, experience built up the science, and from wide observations discovered that by hidden laws the stars wield sovereign power, and that all heaven moves to the eternal spirit of reason, and by sure tokens distinguishes vicissitudes of fate. Before their times, man lived in ignorance. He looked up without comprehension of the outward appearance, and saw not the design of nature's works. He gazed in bewilderment at how strange new light of heaven, now surrounding at its loss, now joyful at its rebirth, nor why the sun so often rose, putting to flight the stars. Look, I can read on, but that's enough. The point I'm making here is that he's clearly saying that these wise priests observed and studied, applied themselves to this science, and came up with what we're going to be learning today. Now, another attack against astrology is the fact that we have processional slippage. What is processional slippage? Well, just quickly, I won't spend too much time on it because I've discussed this in other presentations, so it should be clear. And if you are already an astrologer, you should know a little bit about this, right? People poo-poo astrology because they say there's how the skies were given to us. That's how they were given to us. These are the signs of the day. These are the signs of the night. March the 21st sits here, and this begins the spring solstice, summer. Therefore, these are the hot photosynthesis period of the year. This is the winter, cold, death. Life, death, good, evil, etc., etc. So they gave us this, and 2,000 years ago, the skies for 2,000 years, so from 2000 BCE to year 1 BCE, for 2,000 years, that is, in fact, exactly how the skies were. These constellations were aligned, and it only happens for 2,000 years every, say, 25,000 years in the precessional wheel. So they were lucky at the time because it was all calibrated, it was all aligned. But since then, what's been happening is the equinox, which happened there, has now been journeying for 2,000 years,
through the age of Pisces, and the equinox is now there, poised to enter the age of Aquarius for 2,000 years, this 30-degree delta. So it's been travelling through this mutable water for 2,000 years. Jupiter rules Pisces, and there's a reason why I'm mentioning that. And mutable water is also very important to take note of. We are now going into fixed air, okay? Now, as the sun did that, so people born, say, like myself on the 24th of March, were considered now to be Piscean, because the equinox is, Pisces is sitting behind the equinox on the 21st of March. It's no longer Aries. Aries is over there. So we have a problem. Or do we? Well, this is how people reason who study the effects of astrology and don't understand the causes. I'm going to explain the causes by reading from various sources, okay? So let's put that back to there, and we shall change it not, because that is fixed forever. And I will show you why. Okay, Firmicus Maternus and the others, but I'm going to read from here, give us the reason why you do not change this. There are not 13 signs, there are 12 in this Hermetic wisdom. I'm aware of Ophiuchus. He grabs about 20 degrees of the ecliptic. Sure, I'm aware of the fact that the Hindus are saying, oh, you're a Piscean now, you're not an Aryan. And I'm aware of Chinese astrology and how it agrees and disagrees with this. What we're doing is this. Okay, this is our school for today. And you'll be thankful that you learnt this Western wisdom from Egypt, because it's the oldest, and it is the science that was developed like this, and regardless of precessional slippage, that science applies. Thomas H. Burgoyne. Now, look, he's got 2 volumes, and these if you want to understand Hermetic wisdom, if you want to get all the Hermetic wisdom in 2 books, read these. Please read these, because all of this setup and all of this is explained perfectly in these books. The Light of Egypt, the Science of the Soul and the Stars. In other words, as above, so below. Now, in the introduction, in the first chapter of Volume 2 of The Light of Egypt, this is how Thomas Burgoyne explains that we need not pay attention to the precessional slippage. In the next 2,000 years, we'll be doing this. It will forever be migrating, and it takes 24,000 years to go right around, okay? 24,000 years, and we go through the Golden Age, through the Silver, through the Bronze, and through the Iron. And the Iron Age, in fact, is this portion here, Pisces. We've copped it bad in the last 2,000 years. That's the Kali Yuga. It's the Kali Yuga. We are now entering the Dvapara Yuga. All right? Dvapara means 2, second. And then beyond that is the 3, Treta Yuga. And then Satya means, well, I think it means bliss or consciousness. Yeah. So, because it's the Golden Age and it's going to be great. It's going to be great. All good things are coming. All good things. And this is the science that predicts all this. And it's not doing it by, some hocus-pocus guesswork kind of magic. It's doing it by science. It's pure science. You can predict everything with this science. When you know your birth chart and when you see where the planets are placed, you can tell exactly how your life is going to pan itself out. You can. You can tell why you look the way you look, why you behave the way you do. You can tell how your relationships are going to be going with spouse, partners. You can tell how much fortune you will have with wealth, what sort of honours you will receive in your life, etc., etc. It's all there. And you're going to learn this by the end of today. How to do these, how to see these in your own birth charts. We're going to go and see what Saturn does to your birth chart, what the sun's doing in your birth chart, what's the moon doing there. Why are they always so placed? And what does it mean? So let's get to the explaining of this problem of the processional slippage and put it to rest once and for all. So we can put our trust in here, because there are a lot of entities out there that would love for you to say, oh yeah, processional slippage, okay, let's turn our backs on our astrology. It's no good because the scientists have declared it to be a pseudoscience. Let's...
Inbred mistrust.
Exactly. The shining zodiac, with its myriad constellations and its perfect galaxy of starry systems, derives its subtle influence as impressed astrologically upon the human constitution from the solar centre of our solar system. That's it. Understand that. It derives its influences from the centre of our solar system. So it matters not where the stars are, they're slipped out of place. Oh, the story's not right. Aries is no longer Aries, it's Pisces. It doesn't matter. It matters where the sun is on that angle, because when the sun, as I will go into on a graph after we've done some explaining here, I will show you how this day here, the equinox, and this day here, March the 21st and September the 21st, are very, very precious days. It is the only 2 days in the year where there is perfect balance of light and darkness. And this is a very, very important thing to remember. Balance. Because when the sun does that, then commences the imbalance. In other words, from this point onward, the sun is increasing its light, and the nights get shorter and the days are longer. All the way to this point. And then from this point, the sun must wane, just like the moon does. New moon, full moon. Dead sun, live sun. They do the same thing. So this beautiful point of balance here has always been recognised to be the start of the year, the true start of the year. This is when everything ignites. The blossom. In fact, on the 25th of March, you have Gabriel coming down to Mary saying, guess what? You're pregnant. Impregnation happens here. That's why it's the blossom. The sun, the Christ, impregnates the moon in Virgo, opposite. The full moon is always opposite. You see, this is some real good metaphysics here, guys. This comes straight out of the Bible. It's full of it. When the sun finally breaks the equilibrium and goes into that sign, the Lamb of God that takes away the sin of the world, the winter, when it does that, the moon in its fullness on Nisan 14, the day that the Jehovah's Witnesses go to celebrate the commemoration of the Christ, as the Jews do, they go off to celebrate Passover. So the sun's passed over from the winter months. They wait for the first full moon, which has to be in the Virgin, because you see, once upon a time, the Virgin took this and this spot. There were no scales. This was all of the Virgin. So when the full moon is over here, the full moon is in the Virgin. Nisan 14. The sun is here, the moon is in the Virgin. The son is born of a virgin, conceived on the 25th of March, you see. So what we see is the sun is doing this. The orgasm, the yearly orgasm. The flower is the blossom. And here the Romans celebrated on April the 19th, Flora. And the Japanese celebrate Sakura, the blossom. And then the fruits, the harvest, preserve the fruit, survive the winter, bang, the Lamb of God returns to save the world with its blood. Because when the sun goes through that 30 days of Aries, the blood, it kills the lamb. Just as Hercules kills the lion and Samson when they go through Leo. Okay, so let's stop it there. That's astrotheology, okay? It's good stuff, but it just helps with what I'm going to be reading right now. So now I've read this in another presentation, so I'm not going to go through it, but what it's saying is that these influences are impressed astrologically upon the human constitution from the solar centre of our solar system, not from the stars. And he's written that in capital letters. Not from the stars. It's very important, because you're going to understand many things from this perspective, which occupy the 12 mansions of space. Aries, the fiery, Pisces, the watery, are always there. Aries will always be there, and you'll see why. I'll give you ample reasons by the end of today. Aries will always be there. It will never be Pisces. It doesn't work. It ain't never going to work. Anyone born on the 24th of March, forever, will be Aryan in the universe. And we'll see that according to these guys, not according to me, please. You understand that? I'm trying to share with you Hermetic wisdom exactly from the Hermetic school. Okay? No deviation, none at all. It's very important because this school is intact still today, though persecuted, though they've tried to, Constantine and the Catholics and everything and all these churchgoers have tried to destroy those beautiful temples and universities and schools, and they burned libraries and they destroyed mystery schools and they went rampaging all over the Mediterranean and tried to obliterate this beautiful wisdom. But it's still intact, and I'm trying to share it with you intact. They will always be there, and instead of its being an argument against astrology, it is one of its grandest truths that in all ages and in all times, Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, has been found ever the same, equally as well as Pisces, the last. So, in order to convey our meaning, let us digress for a moment and bring forth a fitting illustration. The condition of our atmosphere and the surrounding objects, vegetation, etc., have a peculiar condition and a magnetism wholly their own when surveyed exactly at sunrise. Interesting. This is true. You notice the flowers at sunrise, don't you? Boom! They get this electric rush and they just stand up. The sunflower faces east. The animals, they just go quiet at sunset and sunrise and sunset. They pay respect to these sunrise and sunset. They do, because it's equilibrium. 2 hours later, there is a very different influence. And at noon, there is a wonderful contrast. The same may be said of sunset, and again at midnight. And lastly, note the difference 2 hours before dawn. This is the coldest period of the whole 24 hours. These are facts. And let your heart, and yet our hearts are all beating to the same life flow. And the earth is no farther away from the parent sun. And yet it is the angle at which we, the inhabitants, receive the sun's light that makes all the difference between dawn and sunset, noon and midnight. When to these facts it is further added that it is sunrise, noon, sunset and midnight at the same instant, all the time in some of the various different portions of the globe, it demonstrates most conclusively that the earth itself is enveloped, so to say, in a complete circle of conditions, very similar to the 12 signs of the celestial zodiac. And so he begins to show how Aries is very, very peculiar in its light from 6 a.m. And by the way, you only do this on 2 days of the year, the 21st of March and the 21st of September, where you lock in tightly this science. The sun will always rise at 6 a.m. on that day and set at 6 p.m. And that's the only day that it happens, right, at the equator. It's the only day. These days are precious. If you only understood how precious they are, that in that day we go through a stargate of equilibrium, and we should honour and respect those days. Because what happens fractally in your body is everything harmonises, and everything harmonises on that beautiful day of balance. It's a precious day, and we've forgotten these days. In church they call it Easter and they celebrate it, in disguise. It's for some other person, it's not the sun, it's for a man that came and died physically, right? So they've pulled us away from this true science. But when you start to see these days and these cycles, unity consciousness. Unity consciousness. You see the unity of all things. When you see the cycles of nature where they're hiding. It's easy to see them with these simple graphs. That's why they gave us this science. And we look at it and we go, oh, shit, what does that mean? Oh God, it looks devilish. Oh, look at these animals, they're scary. And off we go, we run the other way. That's how we've been trained. But he goes on here to explain how Aries gives that particular angle of light. So people born in that month have received that influence, those particular electric rays from the sun. And then wherever the moon is, the moon might be over, you might be born, you might have a moon in Capricorn. Well, she's sending a square energy to the sun. They're squaring off to each other. So you need to see that her light, which is reflected back to us, is also doing something to the sun in that sign and to us that are born here on the earth. Their influences are distorted or strengthened according to where those planets are laid out. And we'll understand this by the end of the day, how they influence one another. So, and then he goes on to say how Taurus then has a different angle of light, and the animals and the flowers and everything have a sort of a relaxation time. This is electric, this is magnetic, back to electricity, back to magnetism. So it's like masculine energy, feminine energy, masculine energy, feminine energy. Okay, let me progress. So with this astrology today, hopefully we'll know how to heal ourselves. So this is for our physical benefit and for our spiritual benefit. So we're going to go into the healing aspects of astrology, and this is a great book. I'm just going to pop that up for the camera. This is a really good book for learning how you can benefit from astrology. You can benefit your health with it. Okay.
Sorry, what's it called?
This is Your Health in Your Horoscope by Stefan. Here's my eyes again. Stennard. Strange colour there. Okay. So we're going to do that, and we're going to discuss the houses. Okay. Have you heard about the houses? You understand what they are? Yeah. Okay. The houses start at the ascendant, and they go. First house will be here, then second, third, fourth, fifth. And those houses actually correspond with first house, second house, third house. Right? We're going to learn that. So your houses, your health, we're going to do, and we're going to, of course, get right into the physics and the metaphysics. How does that sound? Pretty good? I reckon. I think we'll have some fun. Now, we have a binary star, which is Sirius. I've shown this enough in my presentations, I think, but this is a great book by Walter Cruttenden dealing with the lost star, and in here he pretty much proves that we're in a binary. Well, binary might be a deceptive word actually, because as I'm going to show, Sirius has another star that goes around it, so it's trinary at least, and there are more stars too. I mean, Procyon, Alcyone in the Pleiades has always been considered to be a major player in our star system. All right, so it's a star system, but we can call it a binary because we know that there is a direct relationship with Sirius and our sun, and I'm going to show you this relationship. It's wonderful. So what we've got is we've got Sirius that is about 8.4 light years away, I think. Thereabouts, okay? And there's our sun, and we are told in this particular book and many, many other sources that we are in a binary, right? So let's sort of see if we can draw that. Yeah, it always goes like that, pear-shaped, but anyway. So I try, but okay. What Sirius has another star. This is Sirius A, and Sirius B goes around Sirius A, and it takes 49.9 years. Okay?
That's the signs I always forget.
Yeah, this star is a white dwarf, Sirius B. It's a white dwarf. It is harder, 300 times harder than a diamond. It is so heavy that a teaspoon of it will be hundreds and hundreds of tons. I'll get the figures in a minute. I'm going to read from that. Hundreds of tons, a spoonful of it. It is spinning on its axis 23 times every minute. This is a sun. This is a star, guys. Right? It's that heavy. Imagine how heavy it is. It's 300 times harder than a diamond. And every minute, it goes about this fast. In fact, my finger, I did this exercise yesterday to work out how fast I should be going. This is about how fast it's spinning on. Can you imagine a star doing that? It is so powerful magnetically that it directly affects our Earth. I'm going to show you how. In here, it is all explained. In 1989, when this little fella here, this very heavy, hard little fella, when he passed between Sirius A and our sun, with its Earth going around here, for 2 weeks prior to that very moment, in 1989, our Earth sped up in its, I think it slowed down first a couple of seconds in its revolution, and then once this went away, it sped up again. When you understand how important this is, you see, the Egyptians taught us that this was Isis. This is the most important star in the sky. Osiris, Isis, and that's where Sirius comes from, you see. Sothis of the Greeks. The dog. This dog is the dog star, and it dogs our star. Okay? Now, because it follows it. It appears to be following our star. Now, when this, in 1989, this star was in between our Sirius A and our sun, this is what happened. The Earth's rotation period relative to this star, the spin rate slowed down in 89, losing a full second per day for a period of several weeks before the event, and then sped up again, gaining a second per day for several weeks after the event. Take note of that, man. That's a star that's 8 light years away. It slowed and sped our Earth. So when people say, oh, the influence of the stars, well, imagine if that star way over there, now imagine all the planets that are getting around our solar system that are so closer and so much more dynamic in our solar system, imagine what they are doing. In fact, you will learn that they are doing everything. Everything that you see, everything, every material shape that is in your eyesight is manifested by those seven orbs in our solar system. Without them, no manifestation. This doesn't happen. Poof. Take away the sun, we're gone. Take away the moon, Jupiter, any one of them, we're gone. You cannot damage that configuration. Even though our solar system has been unstable and it has lost components and it has components added to it, like Venus. Marduk was, the asteroid belt was once a planet. Now, I want to read something about Sirius. We know that streams of energy from stars travel in specific directions, either up or down the galactic arm in which they are embedded. Stars are polarised by other stars, either negative and positive, some receiving energy, some sending it out, all of which travels on the path of the magnetic field lines. Sirius, the largest in the Sirius star system, the one we see as the brightest star in all the heavens, is Sirius A, outshining our sun 10 to 20 times over, with only the mass of 3 suns. Sirius B, a white dwarf star invisible to the naked eye, packs almost the entire mass of our sun into a globe only 4 times as large as the Earth. White dwarf stars are extremely dense. In fact, Sirius B's surface is 300 times harder than diamonds, while its interior has a density 3,000 times that of diamonds. Spinning on its axis about 23 times a minute, it generates huge magnetic fields around it. The 2 stars dance around each other, constantly interchanging particles. Because of its greater density and magnetic field, Sirius B takes the lion's share, actually vampirizing gases and materials off of its larger host body. Sirius A, clearly a spectacular star system giving off enormous amounts of energy, our Sun appears puny and insignificant by comparison. Every 49.9 years, the two star systems, Sirius A and B, come as close together as their orbits allow, creating huge magnetic storms between them. As they approach each other, the stars both begin to spin faster as tidal forces become stronger, finally flip-flopping over, actually trading places with each other. There's a Tibetan master, Dzwal Khul, author of Alice Bailey's books, taught in the early 20th century about the effects of the Sirian system on our world. When asked what forces were responsible for the world's crises during World War II, he listed as a number one cause a welling up of magnetic force on Sirius, which produces effects upon our solar system, cause and effect. You see how the stars are causing? They are the causal ones. They are the causal ones. They are the fountains, the father fountains of life, according to Hermes, which produces effects upon our solar system and particularly upon our Earth. He proclaimed the Sirian energies stimulated both the best and the worst in humanity. Sirius produces the best and the worst in humanity, as depicted in the global conflict. Now, there's a lot of other interesting things in this article, but for instance, here's one. On January the 1st, you look straight up at midnight and you'll see Sirius above your head. Try 1 o'clock if you've got daylight savings, but anyway, you'll see Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. Below your feet at midnight on December the 31st, the sun will be at midnight directly below your feet. So you look up, there's Sirius, and the sun is directly below your feet. So there's that alignment. That's what's called perihelion. It actually lasts from the 1st of January to the 4th of January, okay? Perihelion, peri meaning closest point, it's perigee. But in dealing with the sun, you use the expression helion because helion is the sun. So that is perihelion. So when would apohelion be?
6 months later.
Exactly. What's the date? That would be around about July the 4th, wouldn't it? Okay.
So that's persistent, don't always be antipodes at that point?
Always, yes, it's there. That's where perihelion is at January the 4th, right? Let's call it the 4th because that's what a lot of scientists out there now are saying. They're saying it's a fact, it's slipped, it's the 4th, okay? So that would make apohelion, the distance furthest from the sun, July the 4th, right? Or around early July. Let's find out what's going on around those days, shall we? Sirius is also associated with liberation. So we just learnt that Sirius brings out the best and the worst in mankind. In fact, according to ancient teachings, the very concept of freedom itself resides in human consciousness because of the influence of this star system. She represents freedom. She's the freeing one. Interestingly enough, the time each year our sun conjuncts Sirius at 14 degrees Cancer is close to July the 4th, America's Independence Day. Bastille Day, the French equivalent of Independence Day, is 14th of July. And Canada celebrates its independence from England on July the 1st, Dominion Day. Venezuela's Independence Day is observed July the 5th. I wonder whether this has got anything to do with Sirius now. And Argentina's is celebrated on July the 9th. Iraq's Freedom Day, when the new coalition government took control, happened on June 28th. We get the point, don't we? We see that influence. We see what the stars are doing. We need to be in tune with them. There's the sun's path around the Earth yearly. And it goes, that's the ecliptic. There's Aries. Aries is always the first, where the point of equilibrium is broken. Okay, it's always the first, and Pisces is over here, the last. This is physics. This is pure science, what you're going to learn. So that sine wave is produced. We're going to draw this sine wave up on the board now, okay? There it is in the skies. There's the ecliptic of the sun going through all the 48 constellations of the heaven, and they are like this. The ecliptic, Aries in the head, all the way to Pisces in the feet, the two fish. That's the ecliptic. Here you have 21 northerly extrazodiacal signs. Here you have 15. They make up 36 constellations. Together with the 12 in the middle are 48. Those 36 have to do with the 36 degrees around the circle, 360 degrees around the circle, and the 360 acupuncture points in the body. It all has to do with the stars. As above, so below. Okay, I'm going to show you this. So every sign, Aries has three extrazodiacal signs attached to it. Everyone does. Here you see Aries has Cassiopeia and Perseus in the northern sky. South of it, it has Perseus, the one who brings the light every day. Taurus has one Auriga, the charioteer, in the north, and it has Orion and Eridanus in the south. Let's leave it at that. We'll continue with that in a moment, but that's the ecliptic. And there you will see that to the north are the 21 constellations, and to the south are the 15, and there's 12 through the ecliptic. Okay? There's a modern map with the same thing on it. Now, there's the Earth, and that's the equator, okay? So splitting the two hemispheres. And then we have the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. And the sine wave there started at Aries, goes up to Cancer, through Libra, down to Capricorn, back up to Libra. That's the sine wave, okay? And that's what the sun is doing. Obviously, I haven't wrapped this sine wave around the globe, otherwise it'd be very long, and I want to keep all the information there, okay? So there's your solstice. Here's March the 21st. Here is June the 21st. Here is September 21st, or 23rd, whichever you want to go with, and December the 21st. Okay? These represent the solstices. These are the longest day of the year and shortest day of the year, okay, from the northern hemisphere perspective. And these are the days of equilibrium. Let's bring that sine wave around into itself. And there, what do we have? See this? That circle is the earth. That's how the ancients symbolised the earth. The sun is like this. That's the sun. That's the earth. That is the sign of addition. Because of the earth elements, feminine, matter adds. So this earth is material. It adds. Your body's a material. It comes from the earth. So that's where the addition sign comes from. When you put it in motion, you get multiply. That's water. That's also feminine. Multiplicity. This is generation. The woman has that power. Right? Whereas before I put that line in there, we just had a circle like this with an equator going through it. That's division. Air. Subtraction. That's division, that's fire. So you see the four mathematical operations are there, and two of them are masculine, which take away, and two of them are feminine, which add. Now, these very important days here are so wonderful. They give balance, as I've already explained, they give balance to the year. Equilibrium is something that nature always looks for. You see, the photon, it wants to go straight, but there's always something pulling it to the side and creating a creational wave. And so that spirit, that light, you see that light is spirit because you've got... I'm sort of going side by side here, juxtaposing the physics with the metaphysics. Are you enjoying that? Is that okay? Yeah, because this is pretty deep stuff too, right? So, spirit. What other words do you get from that root? Yeah, exactly. Same thing. So your spirals are doing that. Does that look like a serpent? Yeah, well it is.
Second akin for a helix.
Serpent and sept. Septenary, 7, has always been associated with serpent. Same root word. Serpentary, septenary. Okay, so this little serpent always, the Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, you see, our sun is considered to be a feathered serpent. The Egyptians did that. They did disc, and then they did the wings, like that, and the sun disc in the middle there, the feathered serpent. Okay? Well, it is, because it's got wings. Our sun is spiralling through the Milky Way galaxy. And it has a spirit body. And so the spirit, the serpent, the septenary, is able to manifest in the sine wave. What other words can you see in that? The sine wave. That's the sine wave. Do you see the word sin? Sin is the fact that we have entered the material world in the sine wave, which is sin.
So in other words, born in sin means born in sine wave.
Well, we were born in time. This is how it works. This is the metaphysics of it. They are the 10 heavens. There is the Kabbalistic tree. Notice that those 10 Sephiroth, they correspond to this. I'll explain this in a minute. And they also correspond with the Indian chakra system. You see, this one gets two Sephiroth. And you see the elements there: fire in the head, earth, air, water, Cancer, Leo, Virgo. Okay? Now, let's explain these 10 Sephiroth. I'll put this up in a minute because there's a lot of information that I need to get out from there. But here is what you call the primum mobile. Or I guess that would be the primum mobile. Okay? That's where spirit is, the cause. And then in here is the crystalline sea. That's the crystalline sea that John saw in Revelation with the 24 elders encircling it. The 24 hours. Right? Or the 24,000 years of procession. Here is what we call the firmament. I'll have to check that. I don't know why I'm confused now, but you've got primum mobile, crystalline sea, and that would be the firmament. Anyway, I'll get back to that in a minute. There you have Saturn, the first ring. You see, when we come through the rings of Saturn, the soul is descending to eventually live on this earth with a material fleshly body. But it must go through all these polarizations. It must descend through 7 levels. And they are the 7 emanations, or the 4 emanations of the Jews. These are acquiring this atomic nature as it descends down to be hexed in matter. Okay? So you've got, the first ring belongs to Saturn. Do you know what his name is in Greek? No, Greek. Chronos, chronology, time, chronometer, right? He's the timekeeper. He keeps the time, the sine wave. That's why when we are born down here, when we get born down here, we're born in sin, because we're born in the sine wave. The sine wave is through your body. Okay, and it's septenary. It's an octave. Look, every septenary is rounded off to an octave. So, you know, you've got an octave of music, which consists of 7 diatonic notes. Okay? There are 7 days of the week, there are 7 liberal arts, there are 7 everything, all right? You've got 7 vital organs in the body, 7 visible planets in the solar system, the 7 Elohim of Genesis. My God, the list goes on and on and on. I don't want to bore you. But these are the 7, because that's the number of physical matter. As these go around and create all their various shapes, like the particles of an atom, creating molecules and bodies and cells, cellular bodies, so do these guys here enable these physical bodies that we are carrying to be sustained and vitalised. They are the ones that are responsible. And we have those 7 chakras in our body exactly as it is here. The sun is always in the middle kingdom. It's in the heart. It's the heart chakra. Above the heart chakra, we have 3 chakras. That's the inferior world, which goes up to heaven, the pineal gland, the ruling, controlling endocrine gland body of the other 7 of the endocrine system. Okay, but below the sun is the infernal world, and ruled by Mercury, Venus and the moon. And these are the feminine ones. Gaia, Earth, the moon, Isis or Nephthys. Mercury is a hermaphrodite, so it gets to be, you know, bisexual. Venus is feminine, and all these are the boys in the inferior world, because they are to do with these. It's simple. It's just physics. Okay, so as we go down into Saturn's kingdom, he's also called Satan in the scriptures. We are in the kingdom of Satan, right? Satan has blinded the minds of the unbelievers, of course, because when we come from unconditioned consciousness and we hit those rings of Saturn as we descend, and we accumulate those 7 vices, but we have to unlock those vices and turn them to virtues as we go back up Jacob's ladder. Well, once we hit Saturn's rings, we're in the kingdom of Satan. And he blinds our minds because he gives us Maya instead of the truth. And we go around trying to work it out, you know, and until finally we awaken. Until finally we break those, we get the energy flowing up, and we get baptized in the Jordan River, which is the Eridanus. That's the Jordanus. When you get baptized, you know, it's no use staying in the lower chakras. They're useful for energy and vitality, for sure. But if we think and live in there, we're never going to get it. We have to transmute. We have to grow. We are very, very fortunate. There's a consciousness descending upon us, and it's incontrovertible, it's inevitable, and we either benefit from it or we get lost on the wayside, because many will not grasp it and many will not benefit fully. Eventually they will. Everything returns back to the ether. We all become ethereal eventually as we ascend. And we must ascend from the solid molecular carbon 666, 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electron bodies that we've been hexed with. And in fact, I've shown this many times. If you flat pack a hex, that's what you get. That's the hex. We've been hexed. Okay? In fact, that's the Japanese kanji. Chinese kanji for earth is just that. Okay? And they don't like the number 4 in Japan. Right? There's in the north of Japan, there's a whole series of cities that are called by their numbers: Ichi, Ni,
Sun, go.
sun, and then rather than going to yon, which is 4, or even using yon, they will avoid 4, like we avoid 13. So there are these 7 towns in the northern of Japan. I've been through there, and you've got ichi no he, ni no he, san no he, and there's no 4. It goes to go no he, goes straight up to 5, because no one will live in that city. That 4, the 4 which comes from the unpacked hex, the 4 elements, you see that's, I'll get this right, water, earth, feminine, because this line of the cross is feminine. So you've got earth is over here, water is over here, and I'm going to put north and south because nous is fire, and spirit is air. So you've got fire and air running down the masculine line, and you've got water and earth corresponding to north, east, south and west. Okay? That's how it works. Everything is interrelated, and I don't go looking for it. It's there. I didn't put it there. It's there. You know, I mean, people say, "Oh, Santos, your New Age theories are ridiculous." You know, I get the on YouTube and that. and first of all, New Age. I mean, what does that mean? Didn't I just say Prisca Theologia, ancient theology? Aren't I talking about Hermes? Wasn't he like in the past? Yeah. New Age and theories. They're not my theories. This is not opinion. I didn't put the Tropic of Cancer there. You know, I didn't invent spiral and spirit and share the same word. And then another thing that people say to me is one person wrote in, hate to be negative, but I'll just squeeze this one in. She says, "Oh, well, all of this sounds good in English. This can't be true because it doesn't work in other languages." Well, it does. I speak Italian, French, Portuguese, Spanish. I can do this in any one of those languages. In fact, I'm going to do it as soon as I get some time. But let's have a look at some of this. I mean, I've already shown that spring is called primavera, first time. Right, the first season, the spring, it's there. March used to be called primus. The Italian word for good looking is bel. There's El, the sun, because if you're bello, if you're a good looking man, you're good looking like the sun. You're not going to be good looking like some doofus. It's got to be the sun. The sun is the best looking. How many sun names have we inherited in our culture? Do you know that John means the sun? Do you know that Robert means the sun? Name some names. You'll find that either directly they are the sun or indirectly by virtue of the planets. For instance, Peter. Peter is not the sun, it's Jupiter. Paul is not really the sun, it's Apollo, which is an aspect of the sun. You see? So Peter and Paul, that comes from our solar system. It all does. Now, let's get back to the science of things then, and we see that this basically is the graph, the physical graph, that allows us to peer into the spiritual. This allows us to peer into the spiritual, okay? Now, the 4 cardinal points, these are the 4 cardinal points. We need to pay special attention to them. Once you pay special attention to these cardinal points, then you will understand astrology. Everything else is just filling in the shadows, as Thomas Burgoyne says. Get the cardinal points right and work out what's going on there. It's big. And here's what Marcus Manilius says 2,000 years ago about the cardinal points. "Come now, prepare an attentive mind for learning the cardinal points." So he's telling us now, just prepare your minds for the cardinal points, because they are so pivotal to understanding, and you're going to see how. You're going to walk away from here today and you're going to go, wow, okay, now I get it. Because of the cardinal points. 4 in all, they have positions in the firmament permanently fixed and receive in succession the speeding signs.
Oh yeah. Arians like me, they're fast, all right. They never walk, they're always running. And Cancerians, Librans and Capricorns. Motion is their modus operandi, you know, like they're moving. They are the speeding signs. But they also speed because, well, let Marcus Minilius explain. One looks out from the rising of the heavens as they are born into the world and has the first view of the earth from the level horizon. Aries. So he says one, I'll read that again. One looks out from the rising of the heavens as they are born into the world and has the first view of the earth from the level horizon. Remember, on March the 21st, it's level. Equilibrium. 6 a.m. Bang on, there's the sun. And has the first view of the earth from the level horizon. The second faces it from the opposite edge of the sky. Libra. The sign of Libra looks like this. What does that look like to you? Does that look like the sun going through the equator? Like the Nissan car thing, you know? Nissan, the sun going through the equator on the month of Nisan. That's Nisan in Jewish, March. So that's why Nisan has their car symbol has a sun going through the equator. Just like Libra, sun going through the equator. Okay, so much for these devilish little glyphs. Oh, the devil invented those. The point from which the starry sphere retires and hurtles headlong into Tartarus. So Libra is at the point where the starry field retires and hurtles headlong into Tartarus. This is Tartarus down here, remember? The inferior regions. In fact, inferior is how the Latins call winter. Inverno. And in fact, infernal, hell, is inferno. You just replace the V for an F. Okay? Infernal, hell, supposed to be hot, is actually another word for inverno, which is winter. The third marks the zenith of high heaven, where wearied Phobos halts with panting steeds and rests the day and determines the midpoint of shadows. Phobos, being the sun, Phobos, halts because the sun always halts at the solstices for 3 days. He stops. His 4 steeds. The sun is always travelling with 4 steeds. You'll always see it in alchemy and pictures of the sun. And these are the 4 steeds, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. How many colours are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse? Can you tell me? The white horse, the morning sun. The green horse, or the pale horse, the green of summer. The red horse, the sun setting at before sunset. The black horse, the sun in the darkness of night and winter. They are the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Because the apocalypse means the revealing. See, the year, as the sun goes through those 12 signs, Jesus going with his 12 disciples, he is revealing the good and acceptable year of the Lord. So he's going around with his 4 horses, his 4 steeds. The cardinal points, they are the steeds. The 4th occupies the nadir and has the glory of forming the foundation of the sphere. In it, the stars complete their descent and commence their return. At the equal distances, it beholds their risings and settings. These points are charged with exceptional powers. And the influence they exert on fate is the greatest known to our science, because the celestial circle is totally held in position by them as by eternal supports. They are the pillars of Hercules. They are the pillars of Samson. They are the twins in the Bible. You always have Jacob and Esau, Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel, the 2 trees in the Garden of Eden. These are the 2 watchtowers. These are the 2 everything. The twins.
That's the Atlas. Push those two.
Yeah. They did not receive the circle, sign after sign in succession, flying in its perpetual revolution, and clamp it with fetters at the two sides and lowest and highest extremities of its compass. Heaven would fly apart and its fabric disintegrate and perish. That's how important the cardinal signs are. Each cardinal, however, enjoys a different influence. They vary according to their position and they differ in rank. First place goes to the cardinal which holds sway at the summit of the sky and divides heaven in two with imperceptible meridian. Cancer, first place. She is ruled by the moon. The moon rules in Cancer. And the moon is the sphere. The moon is our mother. It's the ovaries of the solar system. Earth is also our mother, but Earth is our physical mother. The moon is the spiritual mother. Our spirit descends from the moon, from Cancer, the closest point to the Earth. You see, because, of course, if the sun's climbing up to the Tropic of Cancer and you're living in Italy, good old Italy, over here, well, then the moon's going to be closest to you and furthest away at this point. So that's why they place the moon here and Saturn here. And it's opposite. Saturn's here and the moon is in Cancer, the cardinal point. Saturn rules this cardinal point and the moon, and they oppose each other. This guy, as you remember, the heavens, Saturn is the last heaven that we must leave. And that's the crown chakra. That's the last one. We've got to go to heaven, right? That's the metaphysical aspect of all of this. And you can see already how much you can benefit from this knowledge, can't you, spiritually, as you realise that reality is spiritual. This is phenomenal.
Emperor as well, isn't it?
Saturn is old man Kronos. He has the scythe, so he's the grim reaper, but he is the one that gives us our physical life. For whoever is born of flesh or in time must therefore die in time. See, the moment when the sperm of the male is received by that little egg and those two eggs become one, that's when spirit unites with matter and they create a Vesica Pisces in between. And that is the moment that you are baptised in death. That's the moment you begin to die, because before that you were alive. It's death. It's the baptism of death. And it comes from the womb of your mother, which is a tomb. That's why you come out from a womb and you end up in a tomb. Same word, according to Plato. Okay? So when our father, the spirit, because a sperm, you can't see that little egg. There's no way. You're not going to see it. It's a spirit. That's why they call it the spirit. The masculine part, the guy donates this little egg. And the woman does the rest in her womb. From that moment, you're dying. You're baptised in death. Therefore, you need to be purified with water. Christians get baptised and they symbolise that with water. Holy Spirit, air, when you burst your spirit chakra, the throat. And then fire, when you have the baptism of fire and you've been baptised in the Jordan. That's the story. It ain't literal like they teach it in the churches at all. It's a spiritual story. It always will be, and it's always been there. You just got to point to it and see it. If you don't see it, you're not looking. It's only for people who have eyes to see and ears to hear. And that's why the churchgoers are very keen to preach to you that, you know, that their interpretation is correct and everything like that, because they are actually being forced to do their thinking from their lower solar plexus, their lower mind, which is not evil, but it's not the higher mind. This is the land of opinion, the land of belief and faith, whereas this is the land of direct knowing, when you go up to Aries. And you're going to see how important Aries is in a minute, once I finish this with the cardinal points. So each cardinal, however, enjoys a different influence. They vary according to their position and they differ in rank. The first place goes to the cardinal, which holds sway at the summit of the sky and divides heaven in two with imperceptible meridian. Enthroned on high, this post is occupied by glory, truly a fit warden for heaven's supreme station. So all distinction and reign by awarding honours of every kind. Hence, of course, did you pick that up? By awarding honours of every kind? Of course, because it corresponds to the 9th house in astrology. And the 9th and 10th house have to do with, well, religion, fate, visions, authority, glory, distinction, power, career, honours, dignity, fame, profession. Of course, because the sun is in its zenith in Cancer. He is most influential. So, of course, you in your life, you're going to receive honours and glory in the prime of your life. So you see how the houses work? Take note. The cardinal points teach you this. This is the point, as it says there. I'll read it again. Occupied by glory, the glory of the sun. This cardinal point is occupied by glory. It's a glorious position. It's Jesus coming into Jerusalem and being enthroned as king. Heaven's supreme station, so that she may claim all that is preeminent, arrogate all distinction, and reign by awarding honours of every kind. That's where your honours come from. Hence comes applause, splendour, and every form of popular favour. Hence the power to dispense justice in the courts, to bring the world under the rule of law, to make alliances with foreign nations and one's own terms, and win fame relative to one's station. The next point, though situate in the lowest position, bears the world poised on its eternal base. In outward aspect, its influence is less, but is greater in utility. It controls the foundations of things. This is the foundation point, right? And you'll find that it has to do with brothers and family. Brothers and family. Foundation. Your family. That's your foundation here. The third and the fourth house. Okay? We'll get into that in a bit. It controls the foundations of things and governs wealth. It examines to what extent desires are accomplished by the mining of metal and what gain can issue from a hidden source. Hidden, secret, dark and cold. That's the underworld. The third cardinal, which is on the same level as the earth, holds in position the shining dawn, where the stars first rise. Aries, right? Where day returns and divides time into hours, is for this reason in the Greek world called the horoscope. That's the horoscope, because Horus is rising on the scope. And it declines a foreign name taking pleasure in its own. It declines a foreign name. It will be called the horoscope, and it does not accept any other name. Within its domain lies the arbitrament of life and the formation of character. This angle gives the formation of character. It's called the ascendant. You see, you have your sun sign and your moon sign, but the third important aspect is your ascendant. And see what Marcus Manilius is saying? It defines the character. Your ascendant is telling you about your character. Those angles, those three, where the sun is, your electric, father, and where the moon is, are the most important aspects of who you are. But the third one, and probably equally as important really, is the ascendant. And that's the point that's coming up in the east. Every 2 hours it changes sign. It goes through a sign every 2 hours as it goes round. It will grant success to enterprises, open up the professions and decide the early years that await men from their birth, the education they receive and the station to which they are born according to the planets approve and mingle their influences. The last point, which puts the stars to rest after traversing heaven, puts the stars to rest because when the stars go over the horizon in the west, the Egyptians say the west is death, the east is rebirth, because the sun is born in the east every morning, but then it dies. The stars come up in the east in the zodiac belt and then they die. And that point there is Libra, 6 p.m. Right there, Judgment Day. In fact, the Jews call that September, around the 21st and 23rd, they call that day Judgment Day. That's when you cull your flocks, all right? Your little lambs and your little goats, they grow, and some of them don't make it because they're lame or they're sickly. You kill them here at Judgment Day to preserve their meat for the winter. That is Judgment Day. I can give you a list. There's a whole bunch of stuff, but I can't afford to because in 20 minutes we'll have a break, and I want to establish some good science before we get into astrology good. And it is concerned with the consummation of affairs and the conclusion of toil, marriages and banquets, and the closing of years of life, leisure and social intercourse, and worship of the gods. That's what it has to do with, worship of the gods. And it has to do with consummation of affairs and it's concerned with the consummation and conclusion of toil. The conclusion of toil. You normally stop working here because you can't see anymore. Sunset. So you just go into your house and you eat and you prepare for sleeping, don't you? Right? Well, this is what the Jews, they have two covenants. Have you heard of the covenant of works and the covenant of rest in the Bible? That's the covenant of works, because when the sun goes through there, you've got to work. It's summer. You've got to collect your harvest and everything like that. That's the covenant of rest, because then you rest in the winter. You see how you can decipher everything in the Bible through this science. It's pure science, that what's in the Bible. You needn't worry that God has a covenant of rest and a covenant of works and what that means, you know, in a detrimental, theocratic, judgmental way, that this hierarchical, interventionalist, patriarchal, buffoon, Humpty Dumpty God is going to inflict on you. It's not going to happen. It's science.
That is the best description I've heard in a long time.
Yeah, and it's still not the full description. There's a lot of other epithets and descriptions, because it's ridiculous. And it's time for humanity to wake up. Wake up to the beautiful science of the Spirit and the spiritual wisdom that liberates. See, Hermes is the liberator. The artificial Christ that they've created, he is the enslaver. It's actually the twin brother of Satan, and the magnetic enslaving energies is what the elites are using to give us their Luciferian satanic version of this. It's all erroneous, and we needn't pay any attention to them. Nor must you rest content with observing each cardinal point. You must note with a retentive mind the spaces between them, which extends over a larger range and possesses special powers. The curve which stretches from the orient to the topmost point of the circle claims the earliest and infant years, the slope which sinks from the summit of the sky till it reaches the Occident, succeeds to the years of childhood and includes in its province control of tender youth. It's talking about this, saying there's the youth, there's the adult, and there's the waning years, and then you start walking around with a walking stick and you die. Born, youth. Spring is youthful. That's why Taurians, Geminians and Arians they're the babies of the zodiac. Because this is the baby, the sun is a baby here, right? The portion which appropriates the setting heaven and descends to the bottom of the circle rules the period of adult life, a period tested by incessant change and checkered fortunes. But the part by which return to the orient heaven's course is done, but the part by whose return to the orient heaven's course is done, and which with enfeebled strength slowly ascends the back-bent arc, this part embraces the final years, the back-bent arc, the final years, the fading twilight, and palsied age. In any geniture, every sign is affected by the sky's division into temples. And now he goes into the houses, and I'll stop there. Okay, that was a bit heavy reading, but basically what he's telling us is this. Let me just start this again. And we're going to do a big version of this. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do the same thing, except now the Tropic of Cancer is here and the Tropic of Capricorn is here. So what you can see what I did, that original circle in here, remember, I've made it large now, okay? And here is your, there's your cross. Remember the earth. That's the symbol for the earth. The ancients knew what they were doing. Oh yeah. Now, so the sun here at December the 21st is climbing the mountain. That's the shortest day of the year. And that's the longest day of the year. Very important to understand that, because that is obviously the beginning of a waxing waning cycle. Is it not? Right? Just like Sister Moon.
This is all in the northern hemisphere stuff.
No, this is both hemispheres.
Okay.
Yeah. Of course, here in Australia, this is the longest day of the year, December the 21st, right? But the science is northern hemisphere oriented. There's many reasons for that. I can quote Papists, I can quote Thomas Burgoyne. I won't go into that right now, but it works. The north, because this is the north. And you're going to see Aries is in fact the north. It's not the east. I'm going to show you that in a minute. But it doesn't matter where you are. Southern hemisphere, wherever you are, this science works because it works like this. March is the head of the human being there. The feet will never be there. So an Arian will never be a Piscean. He will always be an Arian if he's born on the 24th of March. Simple as that. The sun is in your head, it's not in your feet on the 24th of March. It will always be like that. Because once it splits that point there, see, let's have a look at this point. Equilibrium, equilibrium. So here we are beginning a new cycle. This is the waxing and the waning cycle, but this is the light cycle and this is the dark cycle. So one starts here and one starts there. Let's have a look at Sister Moon. That's Brother Jesus. Jesus is the sun. Mary Magdalene, the moon, what's she doing? It's important to note what the sun and the moon do every year in relation to each other. Here's the moon in her 29 days, 29 days. She's doing the same thing. Notice where I put quarter moon? It's quarter moon right now. Actually tonight, if you look up, you'll see it's quarter moon, right? Venus in the east, beautiful. She's come up now. It's only a few days she's been up. And Jupiter opposite. Quarter moon, Jupiter and Venus, you will never see anything more beautiful. Check it out in the next week or so, because it'll be going away. Another 7 days, of course, because it'll be full moon soon. So please check it out. I saw it last night. It was magnificent. So there's Sister Moon. She is the magnetic hub of the solar system, and the sun is the electric. It's father and mother. It's our father and our mother. Okay. In the emerald tablets of Enoch or Thoth or Hermes or Mercury, it says there clearly that the sun is the father and the moon is the mother, and you'll see why in astrology. This is how it works. So as the moon begins at new moon here, she climbs up for 1 week, and then she's at quarter moon here, just as the sun is at quarter. And now he's actually going to wax, just like the moon does, and he's going to, in spring, and he's going to provide more light. Because down here, there is more darkness than light. He is obstructed in his vitality and his ability to give us that summer energy, to revitalize the season so that we can eat and live. You see how the sun is our saviour, how Jesus is our saviour, right? You'll see how it works in astrology. It's very important. Then the moon climbs up and she's enthroned as the high priestess. This is Isis, up to here. And then Nephthys begins to wane. And she's the evil twin sister of Isis. You don't do stuff when the moon's waning. You know, stuff like plant. My father, this little Virgo Italian man from Calabria, he used to go around, we grew up in the Victorian Alps, tobacco country, and he always grew stuff. He can grow anything because he knows the moon. He knows the moon backwards. He knows when to plant what, when, where. And he'd go around to all the neighbours and he'd say, see your carrots? They're not going to survive. And they'd be going, dang, Vic's just cursed my carrots. And they got, and they didn't survive. Because your potatoes, they're good, that's good. And when did you plant those? No, that's no good. This is good, that's good. He went around to everybody's gardens and told them how they were going to succeed. You think astrology's got nothing to do with anything? This is where you plant. You plant in this portion when the moon's rays have a certain polarization, because they polarize one way here and polarize another way there. Okay, in the waxing and the waning. The sun is the same. We need to observe the sun in the same light. He waxes, he wanes. He's in his kingdom of light, he's in his kingdom of darkness. And this is how the metaphysical aspects of how astrology is to be understood. One more thing that we need to understand, okay? And I'm going to be reading from a beautiful passage from this book to explain to you something amazing. And you're going to be heads up on all other astrologers with this information. I'll go straight to the page, and then I'll have to do some reading to support what I'm about to share with you. This is what Firmicus Maternus tells us, okay? He tells us that the ancients gave us a universal birth chart. The universe has a birth chart, and guess what? Aries is the medium caelum, the MC, the mid-heaven. Aries. Because Aries is the mid-heaven. It is the heavens. When you face up, when you're daily, when you get about and doing your things, your Aries is always at the top in the heaven. This is considered to be heaven, because in here and in the Taurus, which is this part of the body, are the most precious stars. Sorry for all this running around there, cameraman. These stars in here, when you look at, when you consider Taurus, you will see that there is a little star cluster called the Pleiades, and these are the Hyades. And there's this beautiful red star called Aldebaran, and the red star Betelgeuse. This is all happening in the head. This is the heavens, because all this stuff, the Pleiades correspond to the pineal gland, and Alcyone, the governing star of the solar system, that's pretty much the throne of God. That's in the pineal gland. That's the throne of God. And so, Firmicus Maternus teaches us that the mid-heaven is Aries. Now, I'm going to get back to this, but we're just going to do a little bit of a divergence here. The Egyptians, this is pure Hermetic, because the Egyptians also placed the stars like this. Okay, it's fine to do that. It's perfect. In fact, that's how it is. But you must understand in your mind that that point of the equinox is happening up here. March the 31st is here. The break of dawn is here. The sun always illuminates the mind first. You see, when the sun comes up at 6 a.m. in the morning on March the 21st, bang, the light is in your head. There is fire in your head. The pineal gland and the pituitary gland are in your head. And so you see how the ultraviolet, infrared, because red is the bottom chakra and violet is in Aries. Right? Because these are the colours of heaven. Okay? Now, the Egyptians understood this because they placed the scales of Libra right down here in the underworld. In fact, they said the soul coming from Cancer, the moon, it descends and goes through the 7 orbs and reaches maturity as a soul and ascends out of Saturn in Capricorn. So the soul ascending from the moon and incarnating goes through the orbs. The moon, the sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter and Saturn. They are the 7. They are the 7 chakras that need to be activated. The 7 powers that were granted to us. You see, the vestments, as our souls come down And Manly P. Hall's really good for this. You need to, if you're enjoying this subject, please get into the audio files of Manly P. Hall and study how he explains the vestments that these planets give us. You see, they are really vestments that are heavy to carry. They're not vestments that are in our favour because they subject our unconditioned consciousness. But never mind. We still, as we descend through those seven heavens and we get prudence from Saturn and rationality from Jupiter and will from Mars and divine will from the Sun, and we get sensuousness from Venus and intellect from Mercury and imagination from the Moon. These vestments, it's up to us to activate them. If they stay asleep when we die, that's not going to help us ascend. Ascension is not a new age. Is not a new age idea. It's hermetic. We must ascend. We've got to get back to cause. We're not supposed to stay in incarnation. We're supposed to wake up one day and work out our spiritual source and essence and return to it. It's bliss. That's where the bliss is. So what they did there, you see, is the judgment hall is down in Tartarus. So we must have our hearts weighed. And guess who's there? The jackal. He's always there. Well, because in Libra is where the lupus, the wolf, resides. So he's always there after the sun goes through the scales. And he is always there ready to judge the soul if it's going to ascend. And you see Sagittarius is waiting at the last day of December the 21st with his arrow to send you off into the rings of Saturn. At this point we can explain the mid-heaven and how Aries comes to be in the mid-heaven. And something very interesting you might want to research yourself on YouTube is a video called Solar System New Interpretation by Dr. Palathadka Keshava Vahat, B-H-A-T.
Just the name of the planet. What is it called again?
Solar System New Interpretation. And at the 1 minute point 45 mark, Keshava had the insight to show how the sun, of course, is teaching that the sun is spiralling through the heavens, which it is, in a vortex system where the sun is at the apex, just like Walter Russell teaches, and all the planets are sort of following, orbiting behind the sun, but with the sun, not around it, all in this one plane here, like this. But you know, you'll have Mercury going around like this, and then Venus, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And as the sun spins, the planets are sort of thrust around with their angular momentum, and they are carried in the wake of the sun in this vortex. This is in fact how the solar system works. It works like this, because all solar systems, all the planets, according to Walter Russell, come from the equators of the suns. And what they do is they are ejected from the equators, and as they go out, so the first one from our solar system would have been the likes of Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, then Saturn. And that's when Saturn had dominion over the world. Then Jupiter takes over from Saturn, Mars, Venus. And all these planets, what they do is they get bigger and bigger as they recede away in the wake of the sun, as they grow. Our Earth is growing, yeah? You can check this out on the internet. It's a fact. The Earth is expanding and growing. The rotation is speeding faster and faster, and the orbit is slowing down. So these orbits slow down, and they recede and go away from the sun, and the rotation speeds up to keep the equilibrium between centrifugal and centripetal forces. Otherwise, these planets, they fly off on a tangent. According to Walter Russell and the book A New Concept of the Universe. You should read it if you're interested in this stuff. Also, another fact with the Earth is that there's a cycle called the obliquity of the ecliptic. And as I showed you before, the Earth like this, and you've got the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, and this sine wave is 23.5 degrees in wave amplitude, right? Because the tilt of the Earth is at 23.5 degrees. Well, that tilt is not fixed. It goes around and around and around. Every 2,160,000 years, it does one revolution. It's the axial revolution. The axial revolution. It's 2,160,000 years. In 140,000 years, if that tilt moves 1 degree every 6,000 years, that tilt, which reduces the obliquity of the ecliptic. So the obliquity of the ecliptic is at 47, right? Well, it's reducing and reducing and reducing. In 140,000 years, it will be at 0 a tilt, and we'll have a 1 season year. And the Earth's been doing this for millions of years. These are the 4 bigger seasons of the cycle of the obliquity of the ecliptic. It's something very important to understand, because now that you know that the tilt is always migrating 360 degrees, the planets are growing, speeding faster, orbits are slowing down, that's how solar systems work. That's how the serpent, the spirit, and the spiral in the universe works. So how do I know that Mercurius is the founder of this science, or mind, Thoth being thought? And it's also the word of God. Do you know what the word is? The logos? Well, in the brain, in Aries, is the nous, the thinker. Taurus controls the mouth, the logos, the word, the speaker. And Gemini, the Holy Spirit, Father, Son and the Holy Spirit, is air, spirit. It's a spirit sign. So you've got, you can see it there, fire, spirit, earth, the logos where the mouth is, and there's the twins of Gemini are the lungs, right? So it's to do with spirit. Well, that's nous, logos, and pneuma, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Thought, speech, and action. The action comes in with the arms. When you build a house, you build them with your hands. And the Holy Spirit is considered to be the active force of the universe. So that's where thought, speech, and action, which is what the philosopher improves in his life, is occurring. In the first quadrant of the zodiac, nous, logos, pneuma, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So he says here, we propose, this is Firmicus Maternus in Mathesius, the 8 books. This is the most incredible, insightful work on astrology you will ever read. It's amazing. And this is, I'm going to read from this, where he explains that the ancients of Hermes gave us this science and told us that Aries is the mid-heaven. It's the universal birth chart. So we will always universally have Aries in the head, and that will be the heaven. So this is the heaven, this is the Midgard, the middle garden. The Scandinavians call it the Midgard. And the infernal regions are, in fact, the heavens. Can you see, if we put Aries there, can you see the head of the man? Adam Kadmon. There's the neck and the throat. There's the heart chakra, solar plexus. This is Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom, the bottom chakra, is right down the bottom where sodomy happens. See, that's why I'm not saying, what I'm saying is that's Sodom and Gomorrah. Because Sodom and Gomorrah is down in the hell. This is hell. The Midgard, heaven. Because of course it is heaven. The Pleiades are there. It's all there. It's all on cue. You can't make any of this up. In the first place, my dear Lollianus, we must be aware that God, the Creator, copying nature, has made man in the image of the universe. Remember that Aries is the mid-heaven. a mixture of 4 elements: fire, water, air and earth, so that a well-proportioned combination might produce the living being as a divine imitation. With his divine skill, he so composed man that the whole force... He's not talking about theocratic God here that, makes man out of dust, literally. He's talking about the patterns, the invisible patterns that create matter. Patterns come from... Patterns and matter. That's the God he's talking about, matter. The deist creator, not the theist, theocratic God who intervenes and is so concerned in our affairs that he has to meddle in them. This is the creator. See, pattern is Father, Pater Noster, our Father, the patterns, invisible, spirit, working on matter, our mother. Okay, it's not hard stuff. This is how when you do your etymology and your ontology and your epistemology, big words I know, but check those words out and work out this, then you know. You're not going to be fooled. You're not going to be thinking that matter is evil and mother and the female is evil. You won't be doing that. You won't be reduced to these pathetic, stupid behaviours of churchgoers that do that. And they put women on one side of the congregation with their covers over their head because they're indecent somehow to God. It's funny, isn't it? God. That's the theocratic God. That's the one you run away from, guys. You slave for that one, but you serve the Hermetic God, because all is serving. I serve. Ich dien. With his divine skill, he so composed man that the whole force and essence of the elements is collected in that small body. In this way, he prepared a lodging for the divine spirit which descends from the heavenly soul to maintain the mortal body. Remember the 7 heavens? We descend and we get more vestments and more obstructions to our path back. The gods, they clothe us with stuff and they make us forget what we were. But then when we start remembering, we climb back up and our consciousness lifts. That's what it's all about. And unity consciousness is here. Division is sub-heart chakra. This spirit, though fragile, is nevertheless a likeness of the spirit of the universe. Thus man, like a tiny universe, is sustained by the everlasting fiery movement of the 5 planets and the sun and moon. That's how man is sustained. The 5 planets and the sun and the moon. Those divine men, altogether worthy and admirable, Petosiris and Nechepso. We're starting to get some names. Take note of the names, guys. Petosiris, or Osiris, Petosiris, and Nechepso, or Nechepso, who approached the very secrets of divinity, also handed down to us the birth chart of the universe in order to show us that man is made in the likeness of the universe according to those same principles by which the universe itself is ruled, and that he is sustained forever by those same everlasting fires. Petosiris and Nechepso in this doctrine followed Asclepius. Remember Asclepius? The healer of Ophiuchus, Hermes' subsequent follower, the healer, the god of healing. They're all principles. It's the principle. Mercury is the bright divine brain that we're going into now with the higher consciousness. That's what it is. Mercury is the one that gives us this. This brain can't work that out. We need it to do all the data and the figures so that we've got the figures right, but we can only intuit it. It's got to be intuited. And that's what the higher mind is. Hermes. It's Hermes. And Moses is also Hermes, okay? Never forget that. The Jews identify who the guy with the stylus is. Hermes is the guy with the stylus, Mercury, and Moses is the writer. He wrote the 5 books. Well, and the 2 tablets of the law. Would that be the wings of the caduceus that Mercury holds and the intertwined serpents? The serpent that Moses intertwined in the wilderness? And Jesus is going to be hung like a serpent on the cross, he said? It would be. And Moses died on Mount Nebo. Wouldn't that be who the Babylonians called Mercury? Nebuchadnezzar, named after Nebo. And the Buddhists call him Buddha. It's the principle. It's the right brain. So to them, most powerful Mercury entrusted the secret. They set up the birth chart of the universe as follows: the sun in the 15th degree of Leo, the moon in the 15th degree of Cancer, etc. I'm going to miss that because I'm not going to be able to get through this. By this, they wish to prove that the fates of men are arranged in accordance with this birth chart. On the chart, just as is related in the book of Asclepius, which is called Myriogenius. Then he goes on to explain, Saturn is number 1, then Jupiter, and then as I've done, I've shown the order of the 7. They have a specific order in accord to their hierarchical position. So Saturn gets top. He's the top because he takes 29.5 years to go around in his orbit. Therefore, he's the boss because Jupiter takes 12, Mars takes 2, the Sun is, well, it's 1 year, that's why it goes in the middle. And then Venus is 225 days, and then Mercury's 88 days, and the Moon is 28. So the Moon's at the bottom, she's the Alpha, and Saturn is the Omega. The Alpha and the Omega. And they are the 7 vowels of creation. A, E, I, O, U. The 7 vowels. Take note because we think there are 5. There are not. There's 2 E's and there's 2 O's. You've got A and E, and you've got O and O. A, E, I, O, U. And that is the Alpha and the Omega, the creative sound. And the Indians reduce that to Aum. And they bring it down into the lower, to energize the lower chakras. Aum is, guess who? The Amen. In Egypt they say Aum, and then they give you the name En, because the sun is En. The sun is on. Because when the on comes up here from the Piscean darkness every morning at 6 a.m, when the sun comes up out of the waters of Pisces, Mary, the sea, the on, you turn the light on, and he's the one. See, in Egypt, the city of On was the city of the sun, Heliopolis. And when you turn on the light, that's the one, because the sun is the one. That's why his name is Sol. Solo. And the moon would be Mono. So, you see the N. Solamun means the sun, and Amun. And it's the hidden one. Amun means the hidden one. Now, why would it be hidden? Well, it's hidden because you got to. Have you ever noticed this? Where would the hidden one be hiding in the alphabet, I wonder? The Amun. Amun means hidden, and Christ is the hidden one. Can you see the word Christ in the alphabet? It's hiding right there. It doesn't matter what vowel you put in the middle of that. It doesn't matter. Crest. In fact, Suetonius and Tacitus call Christ Crestus. So crest, Christ, it doesn't matter. In Japan they call it Kiri. Kido. This is the Kido, the Christ. It's hiding. That's what they do. And there's many more. This stuff you can learn from Alvin Boyd Kuhn, as he puts the letter A here, and then he goes around and M is here. And A is followed by B, Abba. Abba is the father. And M is the mother. The middle letter of the alphabet is M. Matter. A is for spirit. Spirit and matter. If you see the South Korean flag, for instance, you'll see that they have the yin and the yang, right? And this is the yin, red, and then the blue part, southern part of their flag is the water. M is water, marine, Mary, maritime, and N next door, navy, naval, nautical. So M and N, and in fact in the Jewish alphabet, M is mem, and it means water. And the word next door, nun, means fish, to swim in water. So M and N are here, right on cue. And you want to read that. It's the esoteric alphabet by Alvin Boyd Kuhn. So now this is the point he comes to. And so from events which actually occurred in history of mankind, the hypothetical birth chart of the universe was put together with allegorical meaning. It has been handed down to us as an example to follow in the charts of men. So that we may not seem to have left out anything, we shall explain how it can be proved that man was created in the image of the universe. Then he goes on to say, in the chart of the universe, which we have said was invented by very learned men, and he did mention who that was, didn't he? Did I read Mercury? Mercurius? Necepso and Petasiris and Asclepius we got. Oh, and Hanubius is here too. Hanubius. Oh, here it is. To them, most powerful Mercury entrusted the secret. I did read that. Okay? To Asclepius, Hanubius, Petasiris, Pythagoras, Plato, because in the Prisca Theologia, the lineage goes from Hermes, the first, and then Orpheus, Asclepius, Agliathemus, Philolaus, Pythagoras, and the last one of the great divine line is the divine Plato. And then came the Neoplatonists with Porphyry, Plutarch, Plotinus, Iamblichus, Ammonius Saccas, and then we come all the way to guys like Manly P. Hall in the modern era. And through the Renaissance we had Pico, we had Giordano Bruno. These were all Hermetic. They were teaching, in fact it was Marsilio Ficino, the Hermetist who translated Hermes. He was the one that spoke first and reminded mankind of the Prisca Theologia. They spoke of it all the time, and they tried to bring mankind back in that Renaissance time into the beautiful learning of the Hermetic ways. Hermes ruled the Renaissance, and Hermes ruled the founding of the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America. They were Hermetists. Thomas Paine clearly said in his book Age of Reason, the sun is a parody on, the Christians have Jesus and replace him as, it's a parody on the sun and nature's cycles. He exposed it there, that the sun was this, Jesus Christ with his 12 disciples. In the chart of the universe, we said was invented by very learned men, the medium caelum is to be found in Aries. That's the point. Finally, I've arrived. See? First of all, he's just revealed in this third book that where the science comes from, and he's named names and named the antiquity of this science and how carefully these priests devoted themselves to this art. And then he names where they said that Aries is always in the mid-heaven. So we are placed appropriately. Our Pisces water feet touch the earth. Our Aries fire head is in the air. Okay? Earth, fire and air are masculine, and water and earth, the feet are always touching the earth. Like a magnet, should be. Everything's right. It's all how it should be and on cue. This is because frequently, or rather always, in all charts, the medium heaven holds the principal place. The principal place always belongs to Aries because he, in Greek, is called Krios, the head. And the Jews and the Arabs call this the head. Aries, the Lamb of God. And from this we deduce the basis of the whole chart, especially since most of the planets and the luminaries, the sun and the moon, send their influence toward this sign. So all the planets, he just said, all of them, the sun and the moon, they send their influence to that sign. Yeah, up to the Pleiades, up to the pineal gland. Now, the reason I mentioned Keshava the Hutt, at the 1 minute 45 mark of his video, The Solar System, New Interpretation, I urge you to watch it, and also have a look at Nassim Harriman's version of this solar system. It's a little bit different, but it works. And at the 1 minute 45 mark, you will see this. He was doing his thinking. He's got the sun going around. He's got the sun going around with all the signs of the zodiac, like this, as it goes spiralling through the heavens. And guess what he's put up here as which sign of the zodiac? Aries. Take note of that video. Have a look at it. And please meditate on this and understand what that means. Always we have this. And remember, we discussed that this is a cycle of waxing. This is a semi-cycle of waning. And this one is of polarity. Okay, this one is doing... is a cycle of, equilibrium and giving a polarity, a certain polarity. Heat, cold, day, night. Okay? So you see how the two spheres are divided. Light and day. They're two different forces, and then you've got the process of waxing and waning. When you understand this, and the moon's doing the same thing, and so are the planets. Right? But they're always just... They never, ever come to the same place before 4,320,000 years have gone by. 4,320,000 years. Manly P. Hall divulges that figure in his audio files on astrotheology. There are 5 of them on the internet you can download. But there are other sources, and it's basically double the axial revolution. Remember that one? 2,160,000. Yeah, it's basically double that. Now, but it's interesting how these cardinal points influence everything else. You've got AC over here, the ascendant, and you've got descendant over here, and this is the meridium, or the mediocelo, and the nadir. This is Dom, because Adam Kadmon, beginning at Aries. Now, please notice, if we put the Aries at the mid-heaven, you see where the head of the human being is here, and then the neck, and then it curves around, and the feet go back up to meet the heavens. And in the Egyptian system, we've already discussed that this is a sort of like a judgment here, judgment day. In fact, everything below the kidneys, according to the esoteric occultists, was Egypt, hell. And Egypt, of course, is this red stuff here, the Red Sea, right? All this stuff helps. I know it's biblical and stuff like that, but it helps. Now, there are 4 virtues. The planets belong to one of 4 virtues. Okay, you've got the active virtues and the passive virtues. The active virtues are hot and cold, and the passive are wet and dry. So this is important. Hot and cold. Hot and cold, wet and dry. Now, the planets will be 2 of either one of those things. For instance, the sun is hot and dry, undoubtedly. The moon would be cold and wet, although I might be mistaken about that. I know Saturn is cold and dry. And this is why Saturn is known as the greater malefic. In our solar system, those beautiful forces that they represent, Saturn and Mars are considered to be Saturn is considered to be the greater malefic, and Mars is the lesser malefic. Combined, those two are responsible for about 90% of all the illnesses on this planet. Their forces. So you need to know where they are in your birth chart, number one. This is for your health, okay? This is the health. So what you know, let's grab a chart. There's a chart, for instance, okay? Now this person is born under a grand cross. See those red lines that go, and the square, there's a square there and there's red lines running through them. That's called a grand cross. That's a cardinal grand cross. Because those points are in the cardinal signs, Libra, Cancer, Aries and Capricorn. This will produce illnesses in the native. This person will have problems. Basically, that's a lot of friction. To be born under a grand cross is very, very special. I've got 4 examples here. It's a grand cross. Grand cross. So, you see, remembering that Aries is the head, the moon here in the causal, in the macrocosm, is in the head. It's in Aries. This person's got an Aries moon. You? Here they have Mars in Gemini. It's this part of the body. And here's Uranus in Leo. You've got Pluto in Virgo. Neptune is in Scorpion, and he's very happy there in Scorpio, believe you me, because he's the higher octave of Venus. Right? Neptune, and he represents the same loving, benefic influences as Venus does. So Scorpio is the generative area. In fact, Neptune was in Scorpio from 1957 to 1970, 13 or 14 years for all those baby boomers. It explains the sexuality, believe you me. Have a look into that, what Neptune in Scorpio does. You see, Neptune has only gone around once since we've discovered him in 1848, I think it is. Don't quote me. But he was discovered in 1948. Well, just 2 months ago they announced that Mercury's done an orbit, finally. But in the 60s, all through the 60s, all the way to 1970, Neptune was in Scorpio. Believe you me, that defines that generation and the sexuality of that generation and the awakening, because he's a liberator in that sense. Okay, you've got Jupiter here on the cusp of Scorpio and Sagittarius. What I'm doing is I'm just showing you that this person has got a particular constitution and configuration, that planets have given this person a particular configuration, different to yours. There will never be another one like it. There's only one person that gets this. I mean, you know, you could do the birth chart for various people around the globe at this particular time, but and they'll have similarities, but they will not be the same. Like no snowflake is the same, even though it's produced at the same instance around the world. There's never one the same. Yes?
Why is that?
Well, that's the beauty of the patterns of the Father, impressing itself on matter. Because 7 is the number of nature, 12 is the number of mind over matter. The septenary, the serpent, is going around, Quetzalcoatl, he's creating, he's the demiurge. It's the creator that the mind sends forth, this mind. The dodecahedron, ether, the cause. It's the stillness, it's the oneness. And the oneness must divide or tip its balance in order to create motion. Because everything you see is motion. And this is why this science is so important. Because when you understand that, and you don't get fooled into thinking that there's any substance in the elements of the periodic table. Gold is hydrogen, hydrogen is sulfur. They're just different states of motion. And in order to grasp that, I would suggest reading Walter Russell's book, New Concept of the Universe. That man was had his pineal gland opened at a very early age. You can do research on him and find out, but
That wasn't the one that the trepanning, was it?
well, he relates to the world in his biography that's how he got to know nature, and you can't debunk him. Try and debunk him. You won't be able to. Everything he says is electricity and magnetism. The electricity gravitates, and radiation, the feminine, radiates. And that's what you get here. See? You get gravity, or rather radiation, and gravity. See, what's going on is equilibrium is here. Creation occurs where you pull something off equilibrium. Otherwise it wants to stay still. This is stillness. In order to, and it's oneness, and it's the universe. And in order to make the duality below sub-ether, it produces electrical effects, the suns, the father fountains. And they are responsible for everything that exists materially. And this is how it happens. We have, in this cycle, we have in the sine wave, the sin wave, we have the serpent, the seven. Everywhere you go, everything's a septenary. And we as Manly P. Hall says, you cannot but run into sevens wherever you go, because we come from the perspective of a septenary. We are a septenary. We are a feathered serpent. The caduceus is in us, the tree of life, as I've shown you, the Kabbalistic tree, the 10 Sephiroth. That's us. We are the living Christ. The Apostle Paul says the Christ is within. And it's this Christ, by the way, as I said before to someone, what's a crystal? It's Christ. Same spelling. Because it's crystallized light consciousness. That's Christ. And we're crystals. We're carbon crystals. Dodecahedrons, icosahedrons. We're all of this. And it's all motion. So this person, now I know this person, by the way, and this person is very, very ill. Very ill. And the illnesses are there, you can see them. Heart. Now I got this from the book that I shared with you. So you've got, these are the deacons, you see. So if you see that's 13 degrees. Uranus is 13 degrees in Leo. Okay, so that's obviously the middle deacon. So this person is concerned with the blood. This person will have blood matters to deal with. Now I've done hundreds of these types of charts for people, and I've always picked their physical problems. Pretty much if you go, this is pretty simplistic, but you can pretty much go with this. Arians normally have headaches. This person won't have headaches because these blue lines are trines and sextiles. Trines and sextiles, see, because these aspects, Uranus is aspecting with the moon, and it's fire with fire, that's a trine, it's 120 degrees, and that's giving good energy to that. You see? So this person will not have headaches, but if that was, say, if Uranus was here in Cancer, then you would have one of these, a square, 90 degrees. And then this person, being in the 18th degree of Aries, would have migraines. I've picked hundreds of these. That's what I look for. First thing, I look for the oppositions. You look for all these, malefic aspects. And I usually look, my eyes always go first to Saturn and Mars to find out what they're doing, because they are the malefics. And whatever house they are in, you see this is Saturn in the first house of this person. So that will have a malefic influence. Or it'll have good influences too. But that being the first house, see, the houses are below the horizon, so that deals with you. I'm going to get to that in a minute, but for now we're doing the health. But Here we have Capricorn is the knees and the skeletal structure. Here we have Aquarius, which is the shins and the circulation. Because Leo is the heart, directly opposite, the blood and the circulation. And so this person seems to have afflictions there, but you need to work out the degrees. 21 degrees Mercury and the Sun in Aquarius. This person is an Aquarius. 21 degrees and 23 degrees. That's the third decan. Aquarius rules the movements. Knowing the person, I can tell you, rest assured, that that's the situation. So you look for these things because, like acoustics, the vibrations that come from these orbs are like the acoustics that an engineer has to work with at a gig. He might have his 30-band EQ with him, and he'll start over here, and he's got 30 bands along the spectrum, the lower vibrations and the higher vibrations over here, and he'll pull out the frequencies that are feeding back. They're squaring or whatever, you see. So he's got that the opportunity to do that. Well, with astrology, those 7, as they go around, they create different dynamics in the solar system, and some of those dynamics are good and some of them are bad, depending on 2 things. The signs that they are in. For instance, Saturn would be happy in Capricorn because he rules Capricorn. So this person, wow, this is a good thing for this person. This person has some really good attributes and things to look to and build on, because what you have to do is transcend these and work with these. Know where they are, know where your weaknesses are and your strengths. So Saturn is happy there. The Sun is not happy in Aquarius, usually, because that's the opposition of the Sun, the detriment of the Sun, rather. So in astrology, each planet has its house and its opposition, its fall and its detriment, exaltation and its fall. Okay, so let's get that right. So we've got the humours because the planets will be this. Okay, Venus is probably, I think, she'd have to be wet because she's generative. Oh, I can check that, but I haven't done a list of anything of that. But rest assured, they'll either be one of the active, virtues, or one of the passive virtues. Okay, so you've got the house of a planet and its detriment. You've got the exaltation and the fall. Now, it's quite easy to understand how this works. It's interesting that the Sun exalts in Aries. Why would it exalt in Aries? Any idea? Now that you know the science?
Because it's hot and dry, and so is Mars, maybe?
Yep, Mars and Aries being cardinal fire. Yeah, but there's another reason. Remember what we said about equilibrium and the polarity of light and darkness, right? And then, of course, remember what we said about waxing and waning. This is the point where the Sun exalts, because finally, here he has been in Aquarius. He is opposite Leo, and that's where the Sun rules. Sun rules over here, ruling house. That's the detriment of the Sun. So as the Sun goes through the detriment, oh boy, longer nights, shorter days. Finally, on the 21st of March, it reaches that point. That's exaltation. This is the fall of the Sun, Libra. The Sun falls because, remember, this is 6 p.m. God damn, when the sun goes down at sunset, it's fallen. And the Egyptians said that's the death of the Sun, the judgment of the Sun and the stars and all the planets that go beyond the horizon. The west is the death. So, you see, it exalts there, It rules here, has detriment there, it must have detriment there, and it must fall here. Well, the planets are doing that too. So you look for those things in your chart. So let's have a look at some examples of this then. Here we have a Piscean, but just on the cusp. So it's very, very strong to be on the cusp of two signs. Yeah. Ha. Yes. Okay. So March the 21st is when Aries begins. So the first 10 days, the first decan of Aries, we could call that top part of the head, that will be ruled by Mars, because Mars is in Aries. So the first decan gets to be there. These people are very martial, all the way to the 31st of March. Then this decan here, and by the way, these are affected by Pisces, people born here, in that first decan. They have Piscean contamination or influence. Whereas these people from 0, 1 to 9, or 1 to 10, this decan, these are ruled by the Sun. The Sun is here and Jupiter is here. And this is how you work it out. Aries is the first fire sign, Leo is the second. It's got the Sun in it, therefore it gets the second decan. Sagittarius down here is ruled by Jupiter, the third fire. Therefore Jupiter rules here. And that's how the decans work. Okay, and we see how the decans are going here. So if you've got an aspect, like a malefic in the first degrees of Taurus, look at your nose, and there'll be something associated with the nose that's giving you a problem, or the throat, or the ears. You wonder why your brothers and sisters have all got some certain affliction that you haven't got, and why certain people are, prone genetically to certain diseases and stuff like that. Well, believe you me, when you're born, sometimes you actually choose charts that go with genetic makeup. There's a lot to this. Yeah, your souls, when looking for incarnation, go to configurations, and at the right time that will give them similar configurations for the family's vibration and the way they are configured. Because that's how you get into incarnation. You get attracted to certain spirits or certain kinds of characteristics in families that you're attracted to, same vibration. It's like a soul group. So again, here we see good aspects. This person has a lot of good aspects. There's the first degrees of Pisces, and so that would rule coordination. They'll be good on their feet, right? Rest assured, if that was a bad aspect, these people would have trouble with their balance eventually, because that part of their solar system has been debilitated. The acoustics are not vibrating the way they should. See, those planets want to go around and rejoice in certain signs. They rejoice in certain... For instance, the Sun is always happy in Aries. Loves it. The spring, impregnation. This is glorious, the exaltation sign of the Sun. He knows where he's happy. He knows where he exalts. You see? But then if there's a planet over here and it's afflicting it, these Arians with afflictions, have usually got those particular problems. Concentration, migraine and skull. Now, let's go on to the houses, because these things, like the journeying of the planets through the signs, are what is creating, according to Marcus Manilius, different people of all kinds. And there is no one alike that are born under these configurations. Every 4,300,000 20,000 years, they go back to their alignments. You see, the last time that all the planets aligned in one sign, those 7, was in Aries. It happened in Aries, according to Manly P. Hall. And the next time it will happen in 2 of the same signs removed. It'll happen in Sagittarius. Sagittarius. Now, with the houses, and I do recommend this book. This is brilliant, by Deborah Holding. Okay? The houses. I'd love to read portions of this. It's quite, it's magnificent work. I'm really enjoying it. But with the houses, let's have a look at how they work. Now, the first house, I'll just run through what the houses mean. The first one has to do with life. House 2 is income, wealth and fortune. 3, neighbours and brothers. Home for the 4th, parents, property. Pleasure for the 5th house. Illness and infirmity for the 6th. Partners, marriage for the 7th. Death, trial, wills, inheritance for the 8th. Long journeys, dreams and visions and learning and travel on the 9th. Careers, honours, dignity, glory, distinction, authority in the 10th. Friends, good spirit in the 11th. And enemies in the 12th house. Now, when we have a look at our zodiac signs, we see Aries, and we learn a little bit about Aries and its nature. Its motto is I am. So it's concerned with its isness. Yeah? And Taurus is I have. Taurus. And Gemini is I think. Cancer is I feel. Is anyone going to help me with this one? Leo is I desire, doesn't it? Okay. So there they are. Let's take note of those. We've got I am, I have, I think, I feel, I will. I will. Mercury and Virgo is I analyse. Well, that makes sense if you know Virgos. Venus and the scales, I balance. Scorpio, I desire. Sagittarius, I see. It has to do with the eyes, Sagittarius. In fact, that's one-eyed. According to Marcus Manilius, this guy has an affliction in one eye. The centaur, I see. Saturn, I use. In Capricorn. In Aquarius, I know. And Jupiter, I believe. Let's have a look at if the houses actually correspond with these. Well, the first house, and by the way, the houses go this way, okay? The first house will be here, in fact, because that's the ascendant, and the first house must ascend in order to be the first house. And then the second house follows the first house, so this is the second house. It doesn't go that way, all right, because we're following nature here. But the first house is to dealing with life. The second house I have, well, Taurus, the materialistic sign, I have dealing with income, wealth, fortune, profit, property, livelihood, etc. Gemini, I think, the third house, dealing with brothers. Would there be 2 twins in Gemini? Pollux and Castor? Brothers. The crab is the home. So the 4th house, which will of course be over here, that's 1, 2, 3 and 4. The 4th house, which we have to go this way to get its meaning. The crab likes to bring in her family. She brings things in. She's motherly. It's the moon is here. That's the mother. The moon is here. Water is here. Cardinal water. It's a cardinal water sign. It feels. It's a crab, motherly, and the moon. How many more motherly things do you want in the 4th house? You know, so it's doing with parents and the home, right? Because remember, the sine wave is going to obey the influence. And as you will see in a minute, you'll see that people born under the signs do actually have certain physical traits that prove and show that they are under these orbs or these signs or the elements or the modality. And you can go forever and forever with this. Man, I've had to guess some people sometimes through their element and whether it was mutable or cardinal or fixed. And it works all the time. So Leo, the sun. What's that going to be dealing with? Pleasure, the lion, symbol of pleasure. It also has to do with children, joy, love affairs, gambling, clothes, the house of Bona Fortuna, the fifth house. This one is illness. This has to do with illness and mala fortuna, bad fortune, work, domestic chores. Well, domestic chores, that's where you do the most work all year round in the harvest of the Virgin. And illness, probably because of the decline of the sun and the mutability of the sign, and also where it rules, Virgo, the belly. And it is known to occultists that if you keep this in perfect health, as Thomas H. Burgoyne says, your whole organism will be perfectly healthy. Because all diseases come from the stomach being upset and putting things in there that you shouldn't be putting in there. Society has really given us lots of goodies to put in there that shouldn't be in there. Wow, processed food is the most dangerous of all because they've been cooked and processed and added to and refined and twisted and tortured, and they bake it and roast it and fry it, and everything's done to it, right? So where does the light go?
Taking the nature out of it.
We can even get the Project Alimentarius if we wanted to.
Yeah. Okay. So are you getting this? You see, what I'm giving you is the tools so you can go fishing, not fish. I'm not just giving you facts. I'm showing you how to work out the houses and think for yourself. The first sign must be, the ascendant is Aries, because it is there. That's where it is. This lives here. This is how it is, and you do not change it. Never will change. Aries is always going to be the mid-heaven, and it's always going to be the top of your head. You can't put the fish here. The fish swim in water, and the brain needs electricity. See, that is electricity. Okay, let's do this. Electricity, magnetism. Chemical energy, kinetic energy. Now you're getting it. And I'd like to thank Johan for that. Check out pateo.nl for some good information which harmonises. He's a guy in Holland who's done some research, and it's good research. I hope I'm not doing the wrong pateo.nl. And he explains these fours. He's good with the fours, believe you me, with the elements fire, air, earth and water, and a lot of this science just perfectly harmonises with this. So you're working it out yourself. Obviously this must have to do with you, the first house. This must have to do with your fortunes. This has to do with your brothers, because the brothers are there, the mother's there. Has to do with your parents and mother and family. And this has got to be pleasure. Summer, midsummer, pleasure. The sun is in his glory in Leo. The dog days are here. They start here. You know, July 4th with Sirius in behind the sun, because they said, the ancients, that when Sirius conjuncts the sun, that's the dog days. And because of her electric forces, remember what we talked about before, how much influence she has on our solar system. Well, when she's behind the sun in the dog days, the little dog, Canis Major, Sirius, she's cooking us. And so this is pleasure. All right, the sixth house, sickness, illness, the stomach and Virgo and mutability. Partners. You, individual, just you. Your partner, opposite. Check out the opposites. There's a relationship. Short trips, Sagittarius, long trips. Anyway, there's many more, but I'll keep going. Virgo, so Libra. How about this one? This makes sense. What's the eighth house?
Death. Scorpio. Generation. That's the testes or the ovaries. That's what Scorpio rules. So when man and woman, husband and wife come together to reproduce, they give death. They don't give life in the Hermetic wisdom, don't they? So it's the house of death. That's Scorpio, but it's not, death is life. The philosopher knows that when you die, you live. We come from spirit into matter for in the sine wave, in the spiral of time for a short period, and then we disappear back to where we came. There's no more body. It's in the grave, in the tomb, is it not? Scorpio has to do with that death also, because when the sun goes through that sign, which it is in now, what is it, the 6th of November, we're right in the heart of Scorpion energy, man. Fixed water, very emotional, generation, death and life, deep esoteric sign. These people make good priests. Yeah, they do. They go, their nature, this Mars with fixed water and Scorpio, because the serpent is here too, and the eagle. They have that eagle. I'll show you in a minute. I've got some photos of Scorpios, and you see they all have beaks, bird beaks. This is not, I'm not making it up. I see Scorpios all the time. I see that bird beak. I see the bird. I go, oh, this is a Scorpio. Yeah, there's a Scorpio coming. You can see it. You can see the canine in Aries. You can see the feline in Leos. The bovine, the equine, you can see it. If you can't see it, you're not looking for it. So this house is, as I said, long trips. And by the way, remember I said short trips over here? Well, in the Mediterranean, most boats were called Pollux and Castor. In fact, the Apostle Paul took a boat from Malta to Pozzuoli, I think, near Naples, on a boat called Pollux and Castor, because Pollux is Paul, the Apostle Paul. There's many hints as to Paul being Apollo, the sun, and that's one of the hints in the Bible. And there's many others. I mean, he had an affliction in the eye. Well, opposite Gemini is long trips, Sagittarius. Remember, Sagittarius is the one-eyed. And the Apostle Paul has an affliction in the eye. And that's a fact. You can read the Bible, it's in there. Paul, Apollo, Pollux. So this is how you got to think. When you start putting all these various bits of data together, then the whole piece just comes together. Everything connects. There is nothing that does not connect. Are you seeing that? Are you appreciating that aspect of this? Yeah, nothing's sort of wedged in and sort of doesn't fit. It all flows, all of it. And it must, if it's a perfect science, and if it's going to do us any good. Why would Hermes give us? I mean, and Hermes, you've got to remember, is the guy who, as I said at the start, these guys, the indigenous wisdom keepers, they know how long Hermes has been around for. And they know that those guys were much more conscious and smarter than we are now. And there's one symbol of that to remind us. The Cheops. The Great Pyramid. Let's call it the Great Pyramid because Cheops didn't build it. And these guys tell the truth about this 50 or 60,000 year history of Egypt. And that's what the tour we're going to do. We visit all pre-dynastic sites and explain them. Yosef, the son of Abdel Hakim. All right, so this wisdom that was devised there in Egypt, like they wouldn't have botched it up. There's no way. This priesthood was, they didn't botch up the pyramid. It's perfect. The greatness, engineers go there and they just can't comprehend. Most the average person goes there and goes, oh, that's just a bunch of rocks. Let's go to McDonald's. They see it as like, it doesn't look good, you see, because in the 12th century, the Arabs needed rocks. Sorry, the Great Pyramid does not have a top. They needed, Hey?
Casing stone.
Yeah, they stripped the casing stones off it. You know, 1,000 years ago, if you were around, you went down to Egypt, you would have seen this was beautifully just. Man, you couldn't even see a join between the two rocks. It was that polished that it was reflecting. The limestone was reflecting like a mirror. This engineering is the same as this engineering here, one and the same. And anyone who comes along and poo-poos this, oh, astrology, isn't that a pseudoscience? Well, that's the time to either decide whether you're going to have an argument or just walk away. Don't bother. I've learnt not to bother. Unless I care for the person in one way, and I'll say, look, what do you know about astrology? And I'll get into it. But usually half an hour down the track, you plant the seeds anyway. You can only do that. In fame, the 10th house. Fame. I wonder why you'd have fame in the 10th house. Well, the 10th house corresponds to, it is Capricorn, yes, but it corresponds to the mid-heaven, really, because that's the 10th house when you're going around 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, we're talking about the 10th house. And the mid-heaven is between these two houses. So this one is religion and fate and dreams and visions and learning. And this is your career, honours, dignity, authority, power, glory, distinction, etc. And so why? Well, obviously because the sun now is in its mid-heaven and he's receiving his honours and glory. He's collecting. He's dignified. We look up and summer sun, you can't say, oh, you weak sun, my plants aren't growing, you're useless. You can't curse the sun on that day. You can curse him here if you're so inclined. I don't know why you would, but that's the blessings. He's in the top of the kingdom. So of course you're going to get honours and fame and glory. So, and you have love, you have in the 11th house you have love, ambition, triumph, good spirit, friends, and then the 12th house, which is, of course, Pisces, is the house of enemies. Enemies, friends. Oh, I stuffed that up with Aquarius, didn't I? Saying that was enemies. Yeah. So friends. But of course, I went around back that way. You understand why this is the first house below the ascendant, because it has to come up. It's coming up, and therefore it's the first house, and it has those attributes. It has to do with you. It's your ascendant. It's going to give you your skeletal structure. And we're going to have a look at that now. We're going to see how important the ascendant is in the way you look. So when you know your ascendant, it defines you. This sign coming up, the first sign, the first house, is about you, your life. Then as the sun goes around this beautiful curve, then it relaxes in the energy of Taurus. It tells you about what you're going to have, how much of it you're going to have, what planet's in Taurus. If Saturn's there, squaring with Mars, forget about it. You're going to be a pauper, right? But if you've got, say, Venus in there, trining with, having a trine with, say, Taurus, another Earth sign, and there's a beautiful planet in there, perhaps Mercury or whatever, the Sun, that will give you riches. And you see that. I've seen that in my family. I won't give an example because it's negative on me. I'm the one that never has money. My brother always has money. I checked his birth chart. Yeah, and there's money in his birth chart, and he keeps looking down at me saying, why don't you save your money? And I look at my birth chart and I go, Saturn's the malefic, the greater malefic. Mars is the lesser malefic. Jupiter is the greater benefic, and Venus is the lesser benefic. But the Sun, the Moon, and Mercury, Mercury is a hermaphrodite. He's never further away from the Sun than 28 degrees. And Venus is never more than 48 degrees. Mercury and Venus and the Moon, because they are inferior, remember they're in the inferior world because they're closer to the Sun. So you can never see Venus full, never. She's always 2/3 full,
or 3/4. That's why, you know, the Arabic flag with the crescent, that's not the crescent of the moon. That's the crescent of Venus. The green flag is the sign of Venus, the colour of Venus. Yeah, but that crescent proves how much science the Muslims knew.
Yes.
Because the Muslims, they actually were the first religion to officially recognise science. The Vatican would never do that. Christianity would never do that. The Muslims did it because they were into science, and they brought this science to Cosimo de' Medici when the Renaissance flowered. But that crescent is Venus. They're telling you how much they know about science, because that flag was invented before the telescope of Galileo. So how did they know you can never see Venus full in her glory? If she could, she'll be much shinier than Jupiter. You see them tonight, you know, at 10 o'clock, you'll see them there, or 9 o'clock, and they're sort of like opposing each other, but they're the two brightest wanderers. Now, I use this book all the time because when I discovered this book a few years ago and I was getting right into this research, I was looking on the internet for, pictures of people to see if you could see how the ascendant affected them and how the sun sign and the moon sign affected these people. Because I had this book, Body Types, and this is brilliant. This is brilliant. But this one here is better in my opinion because it has the photographs of people that we know, and we can see their characteristics. And William Schreiber, I urge people to, I think it's about $20. I actually carry it on my website, but if you're overseas, I prefer that you go to William Schreiber's Astrovision's website and purchase it, because I'm trying to just look after, like Australia and that. So, but this book is brilliant. William Schreiber was very thorough with his research, and he's come up with a great product. I think it's just brilliant. And through the book, you can see pictures of people that these are Sagittarians. You can see the equine features. Jupiter rules. They're jovial. Jupiter is, remember, the greater benefic. Jupiter is beneficent. When you've got him in your sign and there's nothing opposing him. In fact, when you're looking at someone's birth chart, check out what Jupiter's doing, because Jupiter absolutely dominates the whole birth chart. And find out where your Jupiter is. Mine's in my feet, in Pisces. I know what that means for me. I've got Mercury and the Moon in my feet. And I know what that means. So if you look at the Adam Kadmon, you see that that's there, right, in Pisces. And my Sun is in the head. Mars is in Leo. I've got Mars in Leo. I know why, because Mars is bitter. Mars rules all the bitter. And remind me, please, to share some wisdom from Al-Biruni about the planets and what they rule. For instance, Mars rules all your bitter foods, everything that's bitter. Saturn, everything that's sour. Jupiter, when you're having sweet watermelon, you thank Jupiter, because it's Jupiter's rays that produce that sweetness. Everything, every effect is from those causes, and you just have to look for them. And you have to know what's in your constitution, where your sun is, where your moon is, what aspects are there, what's debilitating you, why are you sick. And once you do, then you can have crystals. You can have crystals set up so that around your body, wherever you need, so that they can add energy, either positive or take away negative energy from that particular sign. You see people, why do people wear blue gemstones around their neck? They try to keep, because this is the blue chakra. You see, and it helps with the voice. Sagittarius, I mean, you can see, I've done this before. Let's contrast Sagittarius with Scorpio, shall we? Look at the bird beak. Can you see a bird beak there?
So it's the eagle, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes. These are the bird people. You can see it. And they're not so, I mean, your Sagittarians are clearly, that's Jupiter, that's Mars. Remember, he's the greater benefic and he's the lesser malefic. Right? So can you see the malefic influences here when you're sort of, not that these people are not as happy as these people, it's not about that. But you can just see that Mars is in there, the bird, and you can see the fiery scorpion, the eyes. You can see that focus, their eyes, the intensity and stuff like that. You look for that certain thing. Here's what William Schreiber has to say about these people. He says, in the middle of the fall season, the darkness of night noticeably dominates over the day. The leaves have fallen from the trees, the grass has turned to brown, and life force has entered a state of dormancy. It is so obvious that nature's resources are now limited. Remember, we're talking about the fall, huh? We're talking about... And it's interesting, another thing that I forgot to mention before, see where the fall of the sun is? Well, that's where autumn begins, at the fall. I didn't put it there. They always said that Libra was the fall, and the fall of the sun, autumn, is beginning here. Okay? These things are very, very precious when you start putting them together like that.
Why was that Mars and not Pluto in this?
Pluto is also there. Yeah, Pluto is also in Scorpio, but we just deal with the original 7 planets in Hermetic wisdom because they are the active septenary force. And the others are sort of like on another octave, but also influence in a very similar way. So they should be considered, yes, and factored into it, yes. But as I've done, I'm going with the Western School of Hermes in all of this. And that also there are 48 constellations, whereas today there are 88. Okay, so they've added constellations to here, so they've filled in the spots and they put other little constellations in here, but these are the original 48. When the sun goes through that ecliptic and those deacons go through also, everything happens on cue. I'm going to do a presentation on this soon. And I'm just going to deal with this and show you how Perseus slaying Medusa is here, where you wake up in the morning in the fiery Aries and that fire smashes all the starlit night. And the stars flee when the sun comes up in Aries at 6 a.m. every morning, and Perseus is there to strike Medusa. Just like Samson kills his 1,000 with an ox jaw, a bone of an ox. You know, he didn't just go around killing people because he was a man of God. You see, Christians tell these stories, churchgoers tell these stories to their children, these grotesque stories, and expect them to believe them literally, and they do, and it horrifies them. Little do they tell them that it's happening in the stars, for goodness sakes. There it is. There's Samson, you know, and he's got his club. It's Perseus killing Medusa, the starlit night. And then it's all on cue. I mean, all right, here's a Regulus. See that star in Leo? Regulus. That's one of the 4 bright stars of the fixed signs. Regulus is here. Antares is in Scorpio, the red star, Antares. Right on cue where the generation happens. Regulus in Arabic, according to these guys, is the Messiah. So when we enter the age of Aquarius, opposite is Leo, is it not? So the vernal equinox over here and the autumnal equinox will no longer be where they have been for 2,000 years. Once Aquarius starts, and Aquarius sits on the equinox and splits the day on the 21st of March, Aquarius goes there, opposite is Leo. Right? So Regulus rises from Virgo. We've been in Pisces and Virgo, right? We've been in Pisces and Virgo, and we've gone through the stomach, Virgo, through the lower chakras. We're being pulled up. And then when the equinox lines up with Leo, there's the Messiah. Of course the Messiah is coming, in the sky. And there are other ways I can give you another 10 ways that the Messiah is here. See, in here there are 7 heroes. Perseus, Ophiuchus, Orion, Bootes, Cephas, Auriga, and anyway, there's one more. There are 7, okay? And their positions, those 7, they are the Christ that are coming, because they're always coming. Remember the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, right? I showed you the white one. The white one, the white lamb, it's always on this equinox. The green one, because it rules green, the pale horseman of the apocalypse. The red horseman's over here because it introduces the red. And the black is here, Osiris, the dark one, Saturn, black. The colour of Saturn is black, unmistakably. Like the colour of green is Venus. And how do I know that? Well, let's have a listen to Al-Biruni, shall we? Saturn, Jews and those who dress in black. That's why they celebrate the Sabbath on Saturn Day, when they wear black. Well, it tells you. This is 1,000 years ago, right? Christians, Jupiter. Christians, those who dressed in white. Yeah, because Christians are from the Church of Jupiter. Mars, idolaters, wine-bibbers, dressed in red. Idolaters. Sun, wearing a crown. Magicians, Mithraists. They follow Mithra. Mithra. Ra is the sun. Venus, Islam. Green. Mercury, disputants in all sects. Moon, adherents to the prevailing religion. What else does he teach us? Saturn, extremely cold and dry. The greater malefic. Male, diurnal, disagreeable and astringent. When you eat astringent food. Offensively acid. Stinking, jet black, also black mixed with yellow. Lead colour, pitch dark. Of course, these produce the humours too. Bile, blood, phlegm, the four humours. Blood, black bile, yellow bile, and phlegm. Take note. All right. Mars, extremely hot and dry. A lesser malefic. Bitter. You ever had something bitter that you don't like? Now, if you know your Ayurvedic medicine, you know that you need to have your 7 tastes, don't you? You see, in the West, we love our sweet and sour. If you want to be healthy and if you want to be like really vitalised, you must have all the tastes. Please enjoy sour and bitter. Include them. The Indians teach this. The Indians teach that. That's why they have cardamom and they have... yeah, they put it all in there. And that's why when you eat an Indian food, it's got all these flavours. It's really strong with flavours because they know they've got to balance the 7 to be healthy. Anyway, I'm going to deal with that in the last part of the Prisca Theologia on the 20th. So on eating and things like that. Not that I'm, professing to be some kind of expert or anything like that, or giving people advice, but I'm just pointing to what the people who know say, and you can verify this. All right, let's go with some more stuff from this guy here. See, Saturn is cold and dry. Jupiter is hot and moist. Mars is hot and dry. The Sun is hot and dry. Venus is cold and moist. Here are some other things that the planets rule. You've got Saturn, greed in vice and prudence in virtue. Jupiter, gluttony, temperance. Mars, anger, fortitude. The Sun, pride and faith. Venus, lust and justice. Mercury, envy and hope. The Moon, sloth and charity. In fact, charity comes from church, and church is Circe, which is the moon. Of course it's charity. The virtue of the moon is charity, because she is the church. Now do you remember that Isis saves Osiris because they cut him up into 14 pieces? Well, remember the moon... we had the moon, and we said that when she waxes, she's Isis, and then she turns into Nephthys as she wanes, okay? Yeah. Well, Osiris lives down here. He is Saturn. He's black, and he's dead in the tomb in Tartarus. So the 14 pieces that Osiris gets chopped into are the 14 sub-equator lunar mansions. She has 14 houses here, and she has 14 above. She has 28 houses. And there they are. They are the houses. Everything below quarter moon waning and below quarter moon waxing is the 14 lunar mansions that Isis begins here. See that beautiful slither? The crescent of the moon? When you first see that, traditionally the Jews give that day Monday, right? Because this is Sunday, because the sun blots out the new moon. You cannot see the moon for one day. And this is Saturday. Saturday, Sunday, Monday. That's how they worked it out. And that there, when you see that light, that blessing of light of the moon beginning on her climbing her holy mountain, takes 14 days for the ovaries, for the eggs in the ovaries to mature. If fertilised, 270 days later, the woman in the womb will produce an offspring. Otherwise, 14 days later, the woman will menstruate. And that's the beautiful cycle of Isis. Right? So Isis, when she picks up on her journey, she saves Osiris and puts him back together again, all his 14 pieces, and reinstates him as Horus on the horizon every morning. And the Horus... Sorry?
It's the seat of Mars, isn't it?
Yeah, Mars is here,
Yeah.
in Aries.
Okay,
But
great, thank you.
but it's the male phallic. Mars is...
Yeah.
Why do you have... why does Mars have that? Because that's the phallic of Osiris in Mars, and Horus comes up and he's born again. Osiris is always coming out of the tomb. So here's the tomb, and remember Jesus, the Son, says, Lazarus, come out of the tomb. Oh, he must stink, he's been there for 3 days. Yeah, the Son dies for 3 days down here, between the 21st and the 25th of December. So here we have Librans, okay? So you see the equilibrium of their features. Yeah, and like I said before, supermodels, Librans make good supermodels. There's a lot of them. They're also got the thinking with the air sign. And you know, look, who have we got here? John Lennon. You have a look at your air types and the musicians, for instance. You know, their lyrics are very, very mind-focused and centred, aren't they? John Lennon, Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen. You know, they're thinking types, and their lyrics clearly show where they're coming from. They're coming from mind. They sing from mind. Whereas your fire people have more mystical music, you know. And the water people are always talking about love. Check it out. I mean, do this, get on the internet and think of a singer who is very, very emotional, and check out their birth chart, and you'll find that they keep singing about love and love and love, watery love, because they're a Piscean or whatever, you know. And the earth signs will be sensual, you know, like Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley. Michael Jackson grabbing his crotch, and Elvis Presley Elvis the pelvis. I mean, it's clearly sensual. Sammy Davis Jr. These people are sensual. You can see it in their music. It comes out. It's undeniable, this science. And you've got to go looking for the elements, the fire. You can see the fire. You can see the mental. You can see the emotions. And they're always ruled by that polarity of the sun and the moon and the ascendant. Yeah, we did that one, of course, yeah, and the Sagittarians. I like to do those ones always, because they really contrast well. Your Virgos, you'll have a, you know, like a twisted features and stuff like that.
Twisted?
Yeah, you have sort of like your Geminis and anyone ruled with Mercury, because Mercury rules Virgo. You know, you probably have an eye going one way and an eye going another way. Check it out, your Geminis. You can see they've got like a skewed facial features, they're called, in this book. Let's have a look at this.
So Gemini and Virgo this applies to.
Yeah, because they're ruled by Mercury. it's good when you can think like this, you can understand, you know. He's Sagittarian. I've got a cousin who's Sagittarian and he's always smiling. You cannot wipe the smile off his face. And I've got two other female cousins that are the same, Sagittarians. Love them. Love them. Yeah, and we all do. We do. We love them. You know, people like Brad Pitt, always smiling. You see Tina Turner's beautiful smile. Who can I... Well, I mean, we've just seen them, haven't we? These people are like... The smile is there. It's beautiful. That's Jupiter. You can see the sweetness. Jupiter bestows sweetness upon people. Virgo, you can see the Mercury here. These people are very... they look like the magicians and the gypsies and they look very, very eccentric because they've got mutable Earth and they've got Mercury. Mercury is giving all these contorted sort of features that they have. Chin goes one way, nose goes the other way. Same with Mercurians. Aquarius, I mean, look at the gaze on these people, the air. You can see the fixed air in the mind. It's mental. It's a mental sign. Look at this, the way William Schreiber's depicted them. And they walk with airiness because it rules the shins. You'll find that these people are good with athletics because they've got a lightness of air. It's a light air thing. And good fighters. If you're looking for fighting, good fighting, just have a look at all your... Bruce Lee, he's a Sagittarius, fire. Tony Jai, Aquarius, fighter, and he's a very, very light. He can do somersaults. You know, you've seen Tony Jai, the Thai kickboxer fighter. His movies are just absolutely exquisite, much better choreographed than Bruce Lee's. He's Aquarius. Jackie Chan is Aryan. Steven Seagal is Aryan. Jean-Claude Van Damme is Libran. You see these, and they are great fiery fighters because their sign will support them in their fight, in that. Leos. See the feline features? You know, these are all different kinds of cats to me. I don't know. I see lions when I see these big manes. They have manes. They do. They have these lion manes. Leos. And they are feline. They really, really are. Aries, electric. You see the electricity of Aries, that cardinal fire at the beginning, that fieriness, the sun just going, and the aspect of impregnation, that's very electric. This is the point where the sun exalts and it gives such a burst of electricity and impregnates all the other planets. Because that's what they are. You see, the planets are like particles to an atom, which is the sun, electric, and they are magnetic. And as they go around, the sun is always impregnating them. And see, these people have got that clear, that flower, blossom, spring energy, electric. So what we've learnt in the astrological part of the Prisca Theologia is we've learnt the fundamentals of the physics that underpin this science. Okay, you can see the natural cycles in there. You can see what the electric sun is doing with its beautiful light and darkness, waxing and waning, and how it affects these cardinal points, these four horsemen of the apocalypse as they go around, how they affect the various kinds of people, with the planets interchanging their admixtures of different influences, and we have all these different people that come from the different positions, as Marcus Manilius says. No two are alike, and no fortunes are the same. And so why do we give importance to astrology? Because astrology is the science of as above, so below. The correspondences are all there. I've just shared with you a handful. I mean, I can go on and on and on. There are so many stories to tell here, and I will do it eventually, you know, if Providence gives me the opportunity to make some more presentations, perhaps with graphics on film and whatnot. But everything is in here. That's the above, and this is what Hermes taught us. The right mind taught us this when we were more conscious. And obviously we are suffering from the effects of the Dark Ages, loss of consciousness, and as we awaken in these days, which we are, because the sun, the spiralling sun, is taking us to greener pastures. There is no point where the sun meets here on the 21st of March every year. It doesn't go to the same place. It's spiralling forever upward, forever. It never comes to this point at the same place. Remember, the sine wave is there because it's telling you about linear time. As it goes forward, it goes cyclically, not like a wheel. A wheel goes back into itself. This is a cycle which continues in its nature and behaviour, but does never come back to the same place. So we're always growing with this. The feathered serpent, our solar system, we just have to trust that that feathered serpent takes us to greener pastures. In fact, the Mayans tell us that it will. Because on the 21st of December 2012, and I've explained this on other videos where this galactic alignment is going to occur, then shall start newer influences and different influences that like we've not seen for a long time since our awakening, because we are awakening. And the dead that shall arise, that the scriptures talk about, the dead shall rise, that's not dead in terms of in the tomb and then all of a sudden you pop up out of the tomb as literalist Christianity try and teach. It's talking about that we have been dead in sleepfulness. We have been sleeping. Now as we learn this stuff and we remember the symbols now because we know what these mean, they've been lying dormant in the winter of unconsciousness for thousands of years. And the Romans went destroying the temples of Egypt and defacing their monuments and the hieroglyphs that they didn't understand. And the Christians, you know, they destroyed the Mediterranean's cultural, spiritual, hermetic heritage. Alexandria, the library was burnt. Israel, in Jerusalem, the temple of the initiates there was destroyed. Carthage, you know, she snuffed out all the lights so that she could rule in a fictional world for thousands of years. Now as we awaken and we reclaim our dominion, this science is essential. Astrology is the science of as above, so below. And it is the beginning of understanding who you are. When you realise that you are this, and you look up and you go, twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are, you know what the stars are. They're fountains of life. They are atoms, atoms. And they all have different glory. There's no star that is alike in the universe. Just like there's no other creature that is alike. Not a star. All of their polarities are different and all of their natures are different. They are all different. Study this one, Aries in Scorpio, and see how different they are. And then you'll understand where our influences and our destinies lie. We are young stars and we are returning to the stars. Thank you.